So once again, generate a good motivation of bodhicitta by thinking, I will lead all sentient beings whose number is as limitless as the sky, all sentient beings of the three realms of samsara, out of the three realms of samsara, and establish them in perfect awakening Buddhahood. And this is very important to have this motivation.
Bardo namsela sachi ngishe yebe dagi jimri ku tene yeba danchi wonyang yinyang wonlong yinyang diye de sa wangpo sanne jimri gowa sani jigdagi takto dene jita nyampe jamba yingme do yebe dagi jimra nyene yeba dansum namse tenmetbe dimbar garde to tegi lete kalo Lava Tansi, Tempa Kujurki Selve, Kopa Yinchang, Di Duso Leki Wangi, Rikpa Chetur Dosoni, Chilab Tamche, Gom Sepi, Yundendang. Ne Detabu Yepi Chiri, Dena Shimpi Choga Jepi, Penyin, Yepi Chumtiyan, Tetara Yino, Devena, Sa Shigi Bardo Thödol Chemo, Di Lakpala, Nintendo Javala, Shinto Gele Java Gele Shinto Chew, Motu Chik Lam, Dronaya Chigla, Dolwa Toba Yin, Motu Michipa Mando, Gipi, Dunyang, Tetara Yino,
So again, there's instructions set down above for several profound and genuine instructions for affecting the obstruction of the womb entrances. For those with high, average or low ability, it is impossible not to be liberated by these instructions. This is because, first, consciousness in the intermediate state is endowed with an albeit corrupt supernormal cognitive ability. Therefore, whatever one says to the deceased is heard by the deceased. Second, even if the deceased was deaf or blind while in the human world, now, in the intermediate state, all the sensory faculties will be complete, and therefore whatever is said will be apprehended. Third, since the deceased is continuously being overwhelmed by fear and terror, there is an undistracted concentration on what to do. Therefore what is said will be listened to. Fourth, since the consciousness has no physical support, it is easy to guide and it can penetrate to the essence of whatever is focused upon. Additionally, since the power of retention is now many times clearer, even the mentally weak will have in the intermediate state a lucid awareness by virtue of their past actions. Hence, they will have the gift of knowing how to meditate on that which is told and the gift to assimilate such points of instruction. These are the reasons why the performance of rituals on behalf of the dead is beneficial. Indeed, it is extremely important to persevere in the reading aloud of this great liberation by hearing in the intermediate states for the entire 49 days. For if liberation is not achieved at one introduction, it can be achieved at another. This is the reason why not just one, but many introductions should be given.
Dene yang giwele la kumri chungwa tang, mi giwele la ye tomi dene kumri chetakwa tang, di tripto tang pong chewe. Wangi kongi ngotre tang mi pa te samshi pokchang, mi dolwi rik mambo yebe, tani kondo mang la kom kekna, ko ma kekna, dene mara la nyel go mambi tanga sambo temperature te sange tang. Chanchu semba namla ramda ten chabdo che yang sedeki mingye bene lensum bela deke cheto.
Then again, there are several kinds of persons who do not achieve liberation despite having received the above introductions. and having been taught the above visualization techniques. This lack of ability comes about through limited familiarity with virtuous past actions, extensive primal familiarity with non-virtuous past actions, and the potency and the great force of negative obscurations. So at this stage, if the womb entrances have still not been successfully obstructed as described above, there is a profound oral instruction for choosing an appropriate womb entrance, which should now be presented. Again, one should request assistance of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, take refuge in the three precious jewels, and cultivate an altruistic intention. Then, as before, calling to the deceased by name 3 times, one should say the following words.
Kirikibu tani ling kanto kewa yang tatang selma wongwe ngoshe parakisi de yang kanto kewa tala ling yang tambara chao.
O child of Buddha nature, repeat the name of the deceased. Listen carefully, even though many authentic introductions to the instructions have previously been given to you. Up until this stage you have not taken these to heart. Now, if you have been unable to obstruct the womb entrances, the time has actually come for you to assume a body. There are not just one, but several different kinds of profound and genuine instructions which relate to your choice of an appropriate womb entrance. So comprehend these well. Do not be distracted. Listen without distraction. Understand and maintain a firm intention.
Sara Lipapuro Kenani Ngamba Pomejimbi Sotogwa Tongo, Dereya Matovra Rulu Temperature, Derekena Diki Zomia Chi Midarvi Lingi Yimbe, Dereya Majochi, Lo Tamboling Dokena, Kandang Yamungawa Tone Wongo, Dela Juna, Dere, Jupara Gishi, no Balajido, no Balajido Kena, Ta Pomojimbi, Sotogwa Tongo, Dereya Matovra, Surolochi. Logici yang chi midarbi lingi yimbe dire majuji jang jamini do kena balangi jimbi solam junshingi jimbi soto kwa tongo dida to kewa lebi tiso ngoshe paragisi dire yang majuji sedang senam ye jang dire yang chi midarbi majuji harake nani majuji.
O child of Buddha nature, now, if you are to be born as a human, the indications and signs which relate to the environment into which you may be born on one amongst the 4 continents will arise. You must recognize these indications. Indeed, you must choose the continent based on a careful examination of these indications of the environment into which you may be born. If you are to take birth on the eastern continent, Videha, you will see a lake adorned by male and female swans. Do not be drawn towards this place. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. For were you to go there, even though it is a happy and tranquil place, it is an environment where the teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. If you are to take birth on the southern continent, Jambudvipa, you will see grand and delightful mansions. If indeed you can enter here, do so. If you are to take birth on the western continent, Apara Godaniya, you will see a lake adorned around its shores by male and female horses. Do not be drawn towards this place. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. For even though it is a place of great wealth and abundant resources, it is an environment where the Dharma teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent. If you are to take birth on the northern continent, Uttarakuru, you will see a lake adorned around its shores by cattle, or a lake adorned by trees. Recognize these appearances as indications of the birth that you are about to assume. Do not enter there, for even though this is a place where there is longevity and which has merit, it is an environment where the Dharma teachings do not flourish. So do not enter this continent.
Ara kenani rinpoche naso luti pe kang lakang sek nyamgawa Lagansekman Nyamgawa Tonga Tere, Suchanrungi, Suparaki, Lama Yundakenani, Lama Yundakena, Tele Nyamgawa Tang, Jeremy Korole, Korwa Dardo Tongo, Tere Chineja, Majupara Ruluk Temperkishi, Tudorokena, Takpudang, Topudang, Kilbudang, Nabingi Suludo Tongo, Teyama Sushi, Itasokena, Dongdom Nak Tingwam, Drupu, Pudu Sam, Nak Lingya Tongo, Derechina, Ida Soke, Ida Chegongi Dongela Naso, Nazon Jurve, Derechine, Madova, Rulu Tempergishi, Niri, Taporgishi, Yarokina, Lengebe, Luyanso, Tebaham, Wamido Jugibaham, Mina Lingdang. Kangba Nakbodang, Kangba Marbodang, Sadong Nakbodang, Lam Nakbo, La Sopala. Chimbi Nangwa Wongo Derechina, Yalawara Thödol, Satangi Tungil, Tula Mebe, Tongne, Talameba Nyone, Tembi Di Mionve, Di Seto, Mido, Chidecham, Misopar, Sabarajao, Nirgo Canyo, Rolo Tembarajao, She Sombatere, She Sombate Dare Gebaye, no.
If you are to take birth as a god, you will see delightful celestial palaces, many-storied and composed of diverse jewels. If indeed you can, you should enter there. Here, if you are to take birth as an anti-god, you will see exquisite groves and spinning wooden torches, wheels of fire. Do not enter there under any circumstances. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. If you are to take birth as an animal, you will see rocky caverns, empty hollows, and straw sheds, shrouded by mist. Do not enter there. If you are to take birth as an anguished spirit, Breta, you will see tree stumps, black protruding silhouettes, blind, desolate gorges, or total darkness. Were you to go there, you would be born as an anguished spirit and experience the manifold sufferings of hunger and thirst. Do not enter there. Call to mind the methods of reversal and apply these. Be courageous and strong. If you are to take birth as a hell being, you will hear the songs of those of negative past actions. Or quite simply, you will feel powerless and compelled to enter, whereupon the perception will arise that you are moving into a land of darkness, where there are black and reddened houses, black burst pits and black roads. Were you to be drawn to this place, you would enter the hells, and experience the searing, unbearable sufferings of heat and cold. Be careful, do not enter into the midst of this, for there will be no opportunity to turn back. Do not enter there under any circumstances. As it is said in the root verses, you must obstruct the womb entrances and call to mind the methods of reversal. These are wholly necessary now.
Rigibo ke midowar de chan rangwa me brachabne leke semme dene midowi wang me par doge bada duni set bada sokchegi tribada mina lomara subma chembada kudrada kacharada serwata kota boyo sumne tribi nangwa ke lawongo dere ke teching chab solwa la chimbe gondo shibe kansang sam trakchipta sapota nyakpeta Metope mala zoba ka dumpi nando tarawa da. Dena kapte chiri dengi do ne da chine da dine chiri tena mirongo nyamde. Dedan dregi tope ne dela shindu chakpara churo chiru to dena bardo chikta denamda chiki to ne de dala jising Nambadang, Nando Gape, Kaya Mimbi, Lingimba Shilande, Dungir, Naso Nyamso Nyongwe, Nyamso Nyondo Yongwe, Titini, Kela, De, Thingi Bardo, Chibi, Tayimbe, Tise, Tamaki, Niesamoshi, Niesamoshi, Yimbe, Keranyala, Yela Zonse, De Dudo, Shime Wang Medo, De Badang, Chiktani Jungwe, Dudo, Kichi, Tenzo, Chumdende, Chicho, Hirokam, Tandinam, Chana, Durji, La Soba, Kerangi, Yedam Yena, Dene, Kuchela, Yela Rapa, Kiri, Talvara Lakora Jepi, To, Jisu, Rumashi, Tongi, Kichi. Dijinada doji shema dandra de gelgo dambi wang toba yin dini damagi nye samu yandakwa yingi ila zonji.
O child of Buddha nature, although you do not wish to move forward, you are powerless not to do so. The avenging forces, who are the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect, will be pursuing you. You will have no choice but to move forward. Before you, the avengers and executors will be leading the way. The experience will arise of trying to flee from these forces, of trying to flee from the darkness, from the most violent windstorms, from the thunderous tumult, the snow, the rain, the hail, and the turbulent blizzards which swirl around you. Frightened, you will set off to seek a refuge, and you will find protection inside an enclosed space, such as within the mansions just described, or in rock shelters, or holes in the ground, or amongst trees, or within the bud of a lotus flower. Hiding here, you will be very hesitant to come out, and you will think, I should not leave here now. You will be very reluctant to be separated from this protected place, and you will become utterly attached to it. Then, because you are so very hesitant to go outside, where you would be confronted by the fears and terrors of the intermediate state, you will, because of this fear and awe, continue to hide away. Thus you will assume a body, however utterly bad that may be, and you will in time come to experience all manner of sufferings. This experience of wanting to hide is a sign that you are being obstructed by malignant forces and carnivorous ogres. Particularly related to this stage, there is a profound oral instruction. Listen therefore and understand. At this time, when you are being pursued by avenging forces and you feel powerless to escape, and you are terrified and frightened, you must in an instant and with perfect recall visualize the transcendent Lord Mahotara Heruka, or Hayagriva, or Vajrapani, or else, if you have one, your personal meditation deity Yidam. Visualize the Yidam as having a huge Buddha body with thick limbs standing upright in a terrifying, wrathful manifestation, which pulverizes every form of obstructing force. By virtue of this practice, insulated from the avengers by the blessing and compassion of the meditational deity, you will secure the ability to choose a womb entrance. This is a profound and genuine crucial point of the oral instructions, so understand this now.
Kiri kibu senya samjengi thala soba namni tingi tingi wangi kewa ino idala soba tenrik senje wasini bardo nito tu si chune idada de tingi li dutul naso tenni ba ili de garajur ne onwa ino jingla nebe idada kala juwi idada giri tonda cheche la soba tante ili tenit du se jurne ro de de do toni cha cha chembe de ne de ne choto juru de tara ma jona juma ta buru pel jongi si de tar ma jona gana ya cha de ma je bara ye dam tu ji chen boro gombe bar toro longoro sange bara juro.
Moreover, O child of Buddha nature, the gods inhabiting the former realms of meditative concentration and similar beings of the higher realms take birth through the potency of their meditative stability. Also, certain classes of malevolent forces, including the anguished spirits, arise on the basis of the transformation of the mental body itself during this very intermediate state, through a shift in their mode of perception. In this way, they assume the forms of an anguished spirit, preta, malign force, or carnivorous ogre, capable of displaying diverse miraculous acts. The anguished spirits who reside in the ocean depths, the anguished spirits who move through space, the 80,000 classes of obstructing forces, and so forth, all come into existence consequent on such a shift in their mode of perception, while still in the mental body. At this time, therefore, while visualizing the wrathful deity, it is essential that you hold in mind the meaning of emptiness, the essence of the Great Seal. If you are not able to practice in this way, you must cultivate your experience of the illusion-like natural expressive power of actual reality. If you are unable even to practice in that way, you should meditate on the meditational deity Mahakarunika, without allowing your mind to experience attachment in any respect whatsoever. Through practicing this effectively, Buddhahood will be attained in a Buddha body of perfect resource during this intermediate state.
Kiriki Buddha Daragarate, Liki Wangi Nil Dojo Givachuna, Dani Nilgo Tambi Tama, Tempera Chavo, Nyenji, Deya Nilgo Ganjondo, Ganjondo, Majosi, Sema Juni, Midroy, Wang Majuna, Tandre Gomsi, Deya Kila Data Genshi, Tamuibe. Ne damji rimadara se ne onwe dambara gi se de ya damba sanji gi shindo po dama da korvi ngel ko dambi ndamga ne yebe de dara gi se wambo rab dakwa kaji gi ne do po ne de ya pembe de tabo da de ke ma da kelba ta me pembe toma me be du ringbo de dam sing ne Daro yang korvi dam diri tukpa ne chowa la ngenge de nye chi sang ki bi ring la dak madulwa di asa ma de re ne korwa de la chang chukri lo se re chik chukri bi nyuri bi dani de bi dam je re ne do bi darang nupcho dewa chingi singam sanji nawa tayi ki Sabdundo Medo Bemegala de Kewasi Lenje, Gyunyabe Nupcha Tawa Chingi Singam to Timba Choktu, Tela Tundri Jeba Jeto.
O child of Buddha nature, if due to the potency of your past actions, you must at this stage enter a womb, a further teaching on the methods of choosing a womb entrance is now to be taught. Listen carefully, therefore. Do not just move towards whatever womb entrance appears to you. If, whilst being pursued by the avenging forces of the laws of cause and effect, you are powerless and unable to resist the process of entering a womb, then you must at this time meditate on Hayagriva. Since you now possess a subtle, supernormal and cognitive ability, you will clearly apprehend all the potential birthplaces as they arise in sequence. Therefore, make your choice based on the examination of the indications and based on the instructions. There are two kinds of oral instruction which can now be applied. First, the oral instructions for transferring the consciousness to the pure Buddha fields, and second, the instructions for choosing a womb entrance within impure cyclic existence. Therefore, listen carefully and do as follows. First, the transference of consciousness to the utterly pure realms of the skyfarers is effected by those of highest ability, by directing their intention as follows. Alas, I am deeply sad that even after an infinite, incalculable eon, I am still left behind in this swamp of cyclic existence. How dreadful it is that while so many have attained Buddhahood in the past, I have still not achieved liberation. Now, this cycle of existence disgusts me, it horrifies me. I have long been led astray by it. Now the moment approaches for me to move forward. Now I must take birth miraculously in the bud of a lotus flower, in the presence of Buddha Amitabha in the western Buddha field of the blissful Sukhavati. Focus your intention concentratedly on this thought. It is essential that you make this effort. Alternatively, you can focus your attention on whichever Buddha field you wish, on manifest joy, on dense array, on Alakavati, on Mount Potala, or you may wish to focus on coming. Oh, no.
Ngaseya rangam bebi sinkam nambara damba, mimbara gawam tubo geba. Tubo geba chanlo jenam riotala hambe ma yuge je yedo ojingi jungam gami be sinkam to dimba chapo te chikto. Ma yembara je na dema dodo sinkam dera ke ora choro sen yang gaden jamba kembe chondo de jowara dena yang da borde kap dire gadena me pama chike jerbe chondo jowi de la ba be jowara jao nyabe de bate la jambe chondo pe me nyingba la de ke o se ya de tara matup ching yelo dojo bara chowa ham jo ke bara chona matapi mata korwe ngergo dambe damba me damba ye be nyenji de yang gondar lingyang Dambaraja de Nishikite la Che Darvi Saraju Barajao.
On manifest joy, on dense array, on Alakavati, on Mount Potala, or you may wish to focus on coming into the presence of Padmasambhava of Uddiyana in the celestial palace of lotus light, or indeed on whichever Buddha field you wish to enter. Be single-minded. Do not be distracted. Immediately upon establishing this intention, you will take birth in the chosen Buddha field. Yet again, alternatively, if you wish to proceed into the presence of Maitreya in the realm of the joyful Tushita, think as follows. At this juncture in the intermediate state, the moment has come for me to proceed into the presence of the King of the sacred teachings, Maitreya, in the realm of the joyful. Therefore, it is there that I will go. If you focus your intention on this thought, you will take birth miraculously in the heart of a lotus in the presence of Maitreya. Alternatively, if you are unable to accomplish this transference, or if you desire to enter a womb, or you are obliged to enter one, then there are the following instructions on choosing a womb entrance within impure cyclic existence. Therefore, listen carefully. Utilizing the supernormal cognitive ability which you now possess, examine the continents once again, as just described, and make your choice. You must enter a land where the Dharma teachings flourish.
Deya misangwe de jenjin shikto jenjin shila de kyawaye na misangwe gombo de la di simbi dushike ne derecha de kyawra jure. De namaganda gangi nawa sarwa de dandere temba meje barcha dangi ten ma men baraje la yelgo tambo tambar chao. Deya demba gele jewe de dardo jao.
Be warned, however, it could be that in reality you are about to take birth by entering into substance which is fetid and polluted, and yet that filthy mass will be perceived by you as sweet-smelling, and you will be drawn towards it and take birth within it. Therefore, whatever such attractive appearances may arise, do not grasp at them as substantially real. Ensure that you remain utterly free from the symptoms of attachment and aversion, and on that basis choose an excellent womb entrance.
Gemadani temje tamjigi dono kholo jiri jelbo hama tamdi riksing sala chembo tabo hama tuba tubi kibi te sam chuji dima mibiri sama pama deba jingi rikto ke ne rowa temje tamjigi dene jebe senam jingi rishik lani duen jago.
It is extremely important that your motivation is firmly concentrated as you approach the womb entrance. Therefore, think as follows. For the sake of all sentient beings, I shall be born as a universal monarch, or acting purely like a great dignified Sautri. I shall be born into the Brahmin class, or as the child of an accomplished master, or into a family which maintains an immaculate lineage of the Dharma teachings, or into a family where the mother and father are deeply devout.
Nyambi dimba de la ngere dojo bara jawa de te chupi ngere de yang lai shi so jenge la la chukchi sangi da janje temba nam da yidam ge han nam da kebar to chu tu ju chemba la tolwa tobla wang guru shuvi me ba ngere dojo bara jawa.
Then once I have taken on a body which is blessed with the merit of being able to act on behalf of all sentient beings, I shall dedicate myself to acting on their behalf. You must concentrate your motivation on this thought and thus enter the womb. As you enter the womb, consecrate it by perceiving it as a celestial palace of the deities. Be full of devotion. Ensure that you enter whilst praying to and imagining that you are receiving empowerments from the conquerors of the 10 directions and from the suns, as well as from the meditational deities, and in particular from Mahakarunika.
Detara nyelgo tamba diya norwe nyeni yebe leki wangi nyelgo tambo la ngenbara tongwa da ngenbala tambara tabo namla chapto dowe dokpe ne yang dokpe ni.
However, be warned, for as you make this choice of a womb entrance, there is a risk of error. There is the risk of error when, through the potency of past actions, an excellent womb entrance is perceived as a bad one, and when a bad womb entrance is perceived as a good one. At this time, the essential points of the teaching are crucial. Therefore, once again, you should act as follows. Even though perceptions of an excellent womb entrance may occur, do not become attached to these. And conversely, even though perceptions of a poor womb entrance may occur, do not feel aversion. The essential point of the profound and genuine instructions is that you enter the womb in a state of great equanimity, utterly free from the dichotomies of good and bad, acceptance and rejection, or attachment and aversion. Nevertheless, with the exception of certain persons who have experience of this equanimity, it is difficult for beings to sever themselves from the deep-seated and long-lasting disease of negative habitual tendencies. Therefore, if the deceased remains unable to be free from attachment and aversion in the above manner, such negative beings who are of the lowest capacity may seek refuge in the animal realms or similar kinds of inferior existences. In order to counteract this, again calling to the deceased by name, you should speak as follows.
Yang fedeki mingne bela dikido. Ike dikibo ke ngelago dam masising chadangdan del matomna kongi nawa de nam kansarya. Koncho songi sende jichin chapto dawraki si tuji chambola solwa topji kogin do tende dawraki si parto ngoshebraki si surgi nyewa dang budang bumo dang. Nye de la cha shen pong si dinamgini di la mi pe no. Dinamgini kyo la mi pe no da mi yu ngenpo dang lai yu karpo la su si. Ne su si rinpo je kandang da keme serdo su si.
O child of Buddha nature, if you do not know how to choose a womb entrance and you are unable to give up your attachment and your aversion, then regardless of which of the above appearances arises, you must call out by name to the three precious jewels. Take refuge in them. Pray to Mahakarunika. Go forward with your head held high. Recognize that this is the intermediate state. Give up your attachment and your clinging to the friends, sons, daughters, and relatives that you have left behind. These attachments are not helpful to you now. Enter into the blue light of the human realm. Enter into the white light of the realm of the gods. Enter into the mansion of precious jewels and the gardens of delight. This introduction should be enunciated up to 7 times.
Dene sangeda chancho semba namla solwa debara cho bardo melam chikcho madam bardo sasita bardo chandolgi chang bandol bardo chandol namchang lendingi bardo lakbar cho dene tatul pomba randol yang dadala server lakbar cho cheche bakcha randol yang lakbar cho de shin susin je dedar tursen je be nenjur ba tokba towani chikara 포와 템네 바르도 dim 미게 바라 야기 사드르 쳔버 돌버 주로 디 오마남 냠레 예베 간다 가싱네 치카라 바르도 바르디에 워도 첸니 위에서 뉘든테 야기 사드르도 상게 바 주로.
Then one should pray to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, reciting the aspirational prayer, calling to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas for assistance. Then one should read aloud up to 7 times the aspirational prayer, which protects from fear of the intermediate states, the root verses of the 6 intermediate states, and the aspirational prayer, which rescues from the dangerous pathways of the intermediate states. Then one should also read aloud clearly and with correct pronunciation the liberation by wearing, natural liberation of the psychophysical aggregates. And you should also read aloud the spiritual practice, natural liberation of habitual tendencies. Thus, in summary, by acting correctly, yogins with high realization will successfully effect the transference of consciousness at the moment of death, and being spared the necessity of having to wander through the intermediate states, will attain liberation in an ascending and core-penetrating manner. Certain others below these yogins in ability, who have achieved direct meditative experience, will recognize the inner radiance of reality at the culmination of the intermediate state of the time of death, and will similarly attain Buddhahood in an ascending and core-penetrating manner.
Di Omanam Chini Bardola Sao Tinta Rimba Shindu Shitri Nangwa Sarvite Le Chodang Ombi Jetagi Chigla Chigla Matulna Chigla Tote Chang Rimba Mambe Karung Chig Ngedin Trora Churu Dia Leto Shemba Tang Ditip Lengin Chawa Namni Yar Yang Marla Pitbe Bardo Cham Gede Diang Motu Rik Michikpa Kiki Rimbasin Yube Chigla Ngo Matre Naya Chigla Ngotre de Tolwara Churu.
Others below these, in accord with their inheritance of past actions and their particular level of ability, will attain liberation at one moment or at another during the respective weeks which follow the moment of death, as the visions of the peaceful and restful deities gradually arise in the intermediate state of reality. Since there is a succession of dangerous passageways, recognition will occur at an appropriate juncture during the intermediate state of reality, and liberation will follow. However, those who have a very big inheritance of positive past actions, those who are greatly clouded by negative obscuration, and those who are burdened by a most non-virtuous past actions, will be obliged to roam downwards into the intermediate state of the rebirth. Here, as before, since there are different levels of introduction like the rungs of a ladder, recognition will occur, if not at one stage, then at another, and thereby liberation will follow.
Deya Goma Namsa Leto Shinto Shembanam Ngo Matrebra Chitaki Ondo Sonaya Nyelgo Kapada Nyelgo Dambi Dama Rik Michipa Rimbashin de Yube Chilangi Madena Chilango Trede Mipa Den Ne Tovi Yuen Den Bakto Mepa Yudo Tamiyang Ta Dudo Tabiri Yin Yang Chapdo Yin Chapdo Jipi Yundingi Ngenson ne rolo je de miliri moche derajura pito soto juro ne kyawa chimala lama ki wishinja da tete damba tomne rolora juro.
But if those just mentioned who have a weak inheritance of positive past actions do not achieve recognition and are accordingly overcome by fear and terror, then there is a graded series of different forms of instruction for obstructing and for choosing the womb entrance. Thus, if recognition does not occur in the course of one such teaching, then these individuals will be introduced to yet another instruction, and upon understanding the appropriate visualization technique, they will achieve the inestimable bounty of the higher existence. Even if one is, like a beast, the lowest of the low, through the munificence of taking refuge, one will avoid birth in inferior existences and assume a precious human body blessed with the benefits of freedom and favorable opportunities. Then in the life to come, one will meet a spiritual teacher or spiritual friend, and one will receive the teachings, and thereby liberation will follow.
Shiba Bardo Chudi Limne Kambole ki To Tuba Yurwa Kang Cheba Kang Chala Yogan Wazu Patabi Tamayibe Dipoche Tamche Chan Chu Di Tune Mitul Mithedo Dechi Chireshen Barde Kapsa Jalwa Shudre Lato Tamche ki Tuji Suma Yubadang Dudang Barchi Nigi Suma Nika Somne Yudo Di Se Chu Di Tebasam Nawa Juruni Dolwa Toba Yino Deyang Satagi Teneme Bara Yigi Lu Yimbe Juru Lawa Yino Bardo Tarin Karchamni Karchamni Yu Chan Ligi Ngeji Chami Tongwa Dang Tune Wongde Jembe Zine Kichila Lo Jurdo Tupe Shinto
This teaching, when encountered in the intermediate state of rebirth, is an oral instruction that connects the deceased with the residual inheritance of virtuous past actions. This is why it is said to resemble a connecting tube which re-establishes continuity when inserted into a broken water channel. Therefore, based on the veracity of this method, it is impossible not to be liberated upon hearing this teaching, even for those of greatest negativity. This is because during the intermediate states, both the compassionate invitation of all the peaceful and wrathful conquerors and the invitation of the manifestation of the malevolent and obstacle-causing forces arise simultaneously. As this occurs merely by hearing this sacred teaching, the mode of perception of the deceased is transformed and liberation is thereby attained. Further, this transformation is easy to effect because the deceased now possesses a subtle mental body and not a body of flesh and blood. The deceased continues to see and hear with a subtle supernormal cognitive ability based on the potency of past actions, however far he or she has wandered into the intermediate states. Thus, by sustaining mindfulness of the teaching, the deceased is capable of transforming his or her perception in an instant.
Perena jogi chukru tabo hama tombo chimbi mija mi to ba chunando no be yezam shela kara de be sala temba dan jawo taka sapi jirwa dan jawo de jire selende ba tamji ge sala chinne jogi roye na na bo ne cha gam chu seram ma chu ser ma tingi bardo charjing selte para jawo di bardo ro mi golo wara sago di tamse do simbo la ngone semjinge sok mi che re sar Shen Suyang Rung De Nianxie Gungi Ngu Zha Dang Gu Zhou Dang Nyang Yin Mi Je Mrenga Mi Den Giwi Le Zhup Se Jia Shen Yang Bardo Thödol Chemo Di Chu Gi Rik Gang Sung Yang Rung De Chi Kamsu Chi Gi Shab Su Di Zha Ne Den Na Shin Tu Sa Mo Shen Yang Di Da Do Den Bara Jia Shin Sui Den Da Tan Ye Lo La Zhang Wara Jin Ne Nam chiwarangi bede chita nam ngoshe ne chagi ngoshe ne kamgi chonda rangi dönsing yila sam majona chedola pe lok chordo chorsing sele tape ngebara dolora tesomedo.
This is why the reminder of the teaching is extremely beneficial. Its impact is like that of a catapult machine. In other words, it resembles the way in which a huge tree trunk, incapable of being lifted by 100 men, can be easily steered wherever one wants in a moment, when it is floated in water. In essence, the impact of hearing this doctrine resembles the turning of a horse by its bridle. All those who have died should be approached in the manner here described. If the corpse is present, then a friend should sit close to it and repeatedly read aloud this succinct reminder. This reading should continue at least until blood and serum emerge from the nostrils of the deceased, and until then the corpse must not be disturbed or moved. The commitments which relate to this practice are as follows. No living creatures should be killed in dedication to the dead person. Relatives and friends, whether oneself or others, should not cry, shout, mourn, or wail in the presence of the corpse, and instead should engage in as much virtuous activity as possible. Further, it would be extremely beneficial if this sacred teaching of the Great Liberation, by hearing in the intermediate state, is recited as a complement to other systems of meditative guidance, irrespective of the category of the sacred teachings to which they belong. Further, this text should be recited constantly. Its words and meaning should be learned by heart. Then, if one's health permits, when the onset of the intermediate state of the time of death becomes certain and the signs of approaching death are recognized, one should read this text aloud to oneself and reflect on its words and meaning. If one's health does not allow this, then entrust the book to a fellow Buddhist for him or her to read aloud. The reminder thus being made, there is no doubt that liberation will assuredly be attained.
Du sungi sela chang di le lakwa mini be chuyin no ba du tamba du chen dolora jetpa bardo thödol chema saba ningong I to karma limpe kambo dargi riwo ne tenya champe terma wo di chang temba ta semjen la pen tokpara sho sarvata mangala.
This teaching, which does not necessarily require prior meditation practice, is the profound instruction which liberates by being seen, liberates by being heard, and liberates by being read aloud. This profound instruction is one which can lead even those of the greatest negativity on the direct path to liberation. Ensure that its words and meaning are retained in the memory such that they are not forgotten, even if you were to be chastened by 7 ferocious dogs. This is Pith instructions for the attainment of Buddhahood at the time of death. Even if all the Buddhas of the past, present and future were to search, they would not find a sacred teaching superior to this. This completes the instruction on the intermediate state, which liberates corporeal beings, the profound, refined essence, entitled to great liberation by hearing in the intermediate states. It was brought forth from the mountain of Kampodar by the accomplished master Gamalingpa as a precious treasure. May it be beneficial to sentient beings and the teachings. Savamangalam. So then, in the book here, there's all these aspiration prayers that were mentioned before. This is these prayers that Rama was reciting yesterday for a tea offering for the deceased person. So it's the same prayers that Lama already read, and now we go to the it's called liberation through wearing. Liberation by wearing, natural liberation of the psychophysical aggregates. So this is, for example, I also give this doctrine, which is called like liberation through wearing, to people to wear around the neck. So this is like this.
알아서 신내야 그런 냠도 풍보냠도 풍보디 메타타는 거 냠도 메타모 동라베네 동라 사고 냠도 사고 doctor도 알아서 가가진 냠도 사요.
So the doctor, the liberation by wearing is something that we always should wear on us, and also when we die it should be either buried with us or burned together with the corpse, so it should never be separate.
doctor 되긴데 doctor 상이 되어야
So that means like merely wearing it one will obtain liberation. So herein is contained the liberation by wearing, natural liberation of the psychophysical aggregates, an extract from the peaceful and restful deities. So profound sacred teaching entitled Natural Liberation through Recognition of Enlightened Intention. I bow down to the primordial Lord Samantabhadra and Samantabhadri, and to the peaceful and wrathful deities. This is the liberation by wearing, natural liberation of the psychophysical aggregates, in which the mantras of the peaceful and wrathful deities, those gone to bliss, are encompassed.
Gom migi de doctorin, drup migi de doctorin, jang migi de rectorin, some migi de sotolin, dini chesam randoli, dini pompo randoli, kelba chingi tuyuri, yaki pompo, kontosa, adiran, tikto jen, om, a, hong, ema, kiti kimista, bata, nambali bali, sameda, soro soro, kin balu, Kinbalu, Suma, Kinbalu, Masoma, so Eka, Reli, so Pase, Sakara Bome, Tasa, Yesa, Minda, Asarya, so Gaya, Piti, Yan Bakuli, Eva Kari, Tukani, Mata, Ru, Beta, Nakara, Karate, Kemana, Samburata, Mogara, Saratipa, Daraya Gadara Evasana Nara Biti Sagutibaya Guru Paka Kara Nalam Maranata Itarapatalam Sirana Besa Rasaba Lam Buddha Benda bo seji shawa ki sama sasa riri laki I mama riri laha Kinza yaki gomba di yiki yidi rikpa randur to durji lugo judo to kunza yada nimi to kada durji yangni cho sikpar nisho sadu pa Timi nangwa dangba jung yungi gomba kondo da ade rangje sikto jen di shen login pe
How was on the logo Mari Lamala Lumra
Tigre ade rangje sikto jen oma lunga yi samkada to dolwa jibi nimbo ema kiri kiri mata bali samita suru suru kindali ma eka rali bata ye sata buli ta che ye samita sarya suga ye piti bana bago ye ke kiri ta gama ambore ta nambara lihi sin sang nam kara ta ke layen sabunda meka sara sa tam tapa surya gatara a men pata biho Tingura la mamin sagu tala taya gura lanka kara na lam manara nara lam ita ipata lam itara pata lam sirna pirana sirna desara sapa lam paka lam sasa riri lili ii mama rara kinza yaki kinza yungi komba de chuki senye temba de Chiki senyi denpa yin rikpa churtong kemi to tolwa senyi tolwara senyi denpa yin rikpa churtong kemi to tolwa chibi nyingpo yin kinzang yaptang nimi to kinzang yumdang nimi to kata chochi yani cho sikpara nisho sako pa tang nangpa yata chungwara churu ema ho yundin kinto senyi chiri chelo yiki nyanga ten ombe shamba tobe chiri karmara sa gihang ti nyumon duchom Rangdol ne cha sen marsere jungwara chur pombo shamba tobe chir peka rana sogi ling pombo tujum rangdol ne cha sen sere jungwara chur ilugin shamba tobe chir boga rila badu ti laibi tujum ne jaye karter jungwara chur semgi ngebo purve chir rambaka la temi ke chita tujum rangdol ne Jaye Chandra Jungwara Juro Jungsur Niso Tape Chere Pa Matang Pa Pera Rami Ta Kinshi Kata Rangdur To Jaye Tingsir Juk Zu Bara Juro Duso Nangwa Ngizong Chere Kana Recha Sami Ling Rana Kata Rangdur Ne Zapchen Kachi Tabur Rikwa Sonra Shubi Chere Aka Rabu Saka Sa Chirmi doba satomne shari ramdo jongwara juro trubi ranjo kyongchi chir yati mota sako le kamsum kata ranjo to churi rambo jongwara juro ridro rimge talwe chir yasin ralung pala ya re ridro kata ranjo ne nyari ramdo jongwara juro korwa toni dunpe chir mama kuli samenta genson toni Toni so benda ramdo jongwara juro chichin turdo shubi chir kari ngaya gare nga ya mari ma ta ma yanda de na chamni so sirre ram do jungora juro rbe chung por be che boga sing chu pala ya ga sar rang do drone so jate na so chu por che simbe tan da che be che rami pipi kata pa shin yur ing so drone so nangwa ta se tar por chu lu che arala te be che ba go ma la pa ti ki Nyamnam Gondo Penisa Jasin Neda Risu Jung Saye Chacha Tavichi Sama Deva Sama Nyewa Derasa Rikwasela Pimniso Sayi Kuzu Jungra Juru Tagum Lokwa Takpechi Bandara Sato Tijome Rikwaran La Soni So Chaya Kadri Jungra Juru Salam Diji Chipichir Gyapa Surga Narma Ye Salam Diji Soni So Chinye Rando Jungra Juru Ichi Tawa Kunchi Chir Dharma pati sagu li gongsa rangsar chini gong yezir karbo chungwar churu kusam namdo longwi chit rimi sama kage sa kusam namdo longni so yuki nangwa chungwar churu nangwa ngi so langwi chit rupa mirimi ta mam chedru dunyam chungni so longdang sirbo chungwar churu chayi shenpa tachi chirat Dati sayaka lisa jimi sikdi truni so jayu tongsi ten bara ten me chura samten chibi sanun chir gasa wayang baling tam salam chikdo chini so jayu tongsi 미토기 틴레 타루 용위 지레 까르마 에카 안노사 모라시 투지르로 링셀 차싱 망와중 산지 인신 도베지레 사마티마 까르마타 고송가다 론도돌라 나과다시 자센투 제르세 남게 네스르치 딱정 올라 렙데돌라 자다링들 참모 망 에마오 긴장 야뷰 님미기 공바 지도랑종와 제레레 돌로라 뉴바이 춘니랑다랑 춘니 랑자 랑종 틸리니스 상가포 에모 데니 야뷰 님미 돌로 줄비 짬데 최발레 시조리지 긴거라라 시와십자 산에게 공바 랑종 롱들도 님마 텐데 템바다르 결와징게 제유도 랑종 공바 데이터 보로 아홍 보디테타 마하소가 잔다도 시와 산지 십전이 직도들이 공바데 똑보 폼보랑 똑보 폼보 가도데 이시심이 론도데 이기주죠 이유주 주주 도르지 자 자유리지 빠미중 예마호 데니시와 십주니 공보 소소란조 홍소 앙하 링아 양미 사변도 란주주의 이게서 공보 의랑로네 나라돌네 예싱가로 차로로 동리 남바 나종 람몸맘맘빰땀 염증의 사변도 란주지 얘기샤라 정왕아 바란도네 염종 나당 예르미도라 자된가도 난데 자된가도 자된가도 나보종 엄무디나데 나브라다데 공바인 나브라다데 공면 도포 치인 예시도 디도라 제바인 자서가도 가서레 좀 예신식비 용초니 인리 중에 벤사람 카도 나딘 공아 또 홍변들이 도지테비 공부에 남바라나데 예시도 디도로 제보 자생 카도 마르들 좀 뱀바리기 동촌이 사리 중에 사리람 카도 말바케미도 하단자디 뉴유지비 공부에 뒤지도 좀 예시도 디도로 제보 자생 카도 장셀레 좀 레기리 동촌이 감레 좀 야리람 카도 정보 주고도 람다지 소리도 인좀의 공부에 남긴 나와 라운드를 자세 팅스를 똑바로 저 몸다도 소리 산지 재미 공부에 중와 사캄 라운드를 자예들 똑바로 저 맘하라디 마마기 공부에 중와 조금 라운드네 자예 팅스를 똑바로 저 빰가라디 나다가며 공부에 중원의 감람들네 장외 마들도 바라주라 하트 벤땀 벤더라티 남들들 공부에 중원 농념 랑들네 자외 장 자생장들도 바라주라 잼 지미홍 짬시 몸팀딤 셈바지기 사변도 랑주주의 얘기자라 남시 토지랑도 셈바지다 에르멘도 링셀 초싱 망와라 지히사라사야 소하 지히라사야 소하 니기 남자랑도 산인이다 에르멘조로 메 다라니 소하 나외 남자랑도 잠반이다 에르멘조로 홍 사라사야 소하 나이 남자랑도네 균인당 니당 에르멘도 좀 아가라바야 소하 지에 남자랑도 남인이다 에르멘조로 홍 시하 홍 뱀마바다야 소하 레기 남시랑도네 젠리데다 엘미저로 몸시르 아람가야 소하 이게 남시랑도네 잠브렌데다 엘메 조로 팀 사람바야 소하 kin시 남시랑도네 직선지다 엘메저로 팀 고로반데시 소하 뉴이 남시 라운드로네 차도른데다 엘메저로 셈바지게 콤바디 남시 소제 라운드로네 자유에 나서 초바라저로 홍 짬자 시밤호 아 셈바지게 삼미도 라운드주의 얘기샤 라운드주의 얘기샤라 라운드주의 얘기샤라 유지도 바라는 메도 차로와 좀 바라저로 홍라 세상마야 또 무도유도 바라는 라세마다 엘메저 홍비가 아베사에 또 마데비도 봐 라운드로니 메도 마다 엘메저 짬말이 사마야호 지지도 바라는 청와마다 엘메저 자우드비 타베사야 좀 유도 바라는 페이퍼 पेमा मादा एलमेजोर सेगे तेरा राहो हांग तायुतो बारादने पिवांग मादा एलमेजोर पम दीपम सुगिनी समाया तो महातो बारादोलने मारमे मादा एलमेजोर हो गेंदे सिता हो तेतारा तो बारादने चिचा मादा एलमेजो आ निरते रागाया मितम रोलतो बारादने सेदे मादा एलमेजो सेमा지기 공바디 유지도 바라दने 메도 차상 롤메다 남시 페페티소 Yuzo Zhong, Zhem, Zhum, Cham, Sum, Ye, Tuba, Gitabita, Ranju Jui, Yigesha, Nyumon Drupa, Ranju, Rito, Keko, Kingne, Chang, Jojo, Drupo, Jumiche, Ring the Tashi, Mama Zhong, all money tem so Hatawa, Chajin, Komba, Te, Aje, Tai, Keko, Ke, all money drum, all money tem so, all money drum so Hatata, Riki, Komba, Te. 차도 하면 깨고게 어머니 좀 소와 사서 투비 공부대 되셔미 깨고게 어머니 참 소와 생겨라대 공부대 띠모 뒤뒤 깨고게 어머니 좀 소와 카버메 공부대 셀나 이다 깨고게 어머니의 소와 취기지를 공부이 취기지를 공부대 세다 일회 깨고게 줄고 투주 공부대 마다 지도 고가고 고간에 답과 줄기 조된 중 진짜 나서 초벌어져로 홍홍 자홍 방고 고와 여병 제게니 란조주의 이게 샤르 겨와남제 고케네 겨와남제 고케네 테메남제 줄라게 자이 카도 시딘 중 엄배한다 프로타 비자야 홍 넘버 제위 공부할 따주로 똑바 란조네 제위 레긴 조벌어져로 엄배다 프로타 야메다고 홍 신지 시기 공부할 체다 똑바란드네 제비 레긴 조바라죠 엄페마 따뜻다 하야죠 홍페 따뜻죠 공부데 다 다다고란들네 왕게레긴 조바라죠 아무리다 근달리 홍 뒤테키비 공부데 셈버다와 란돌네 라비레긴 조바라죠 고와시 공부데 따치 모시란도네 틸레네 조바라죠로 자예 카르스 마르장 중 어면들 안고샤다 저점에 공부데 뒤지기위고 뒤지기위 고객네 인지 셈미 줄라게 어면들 빠사 홍사 공부에 공부데 녀고 기위 고객네 잠바 셈미 줄라게 어면들 포트바 저점에 공부데 공아의 기위 고객네 가와 셈미 줄라게 어면들 견저호 들보에 공부데 되실 기위 고객네 당념 셈미 줄라게 시와십자 산내게 토기 공부 롱도르 또서 풍부한데 동당 링셀 자유죠 에마와 차통 로조 탐바이 공바란저 론도르도 님마 진대 템바 따라 결바 진기 주유도 나란종 공바디 따라종 엄루루루 홍조 홍 차통 조조 탐바이 직도 절위 공바데 님모도 바랑 님모도 바가도 이치치미 론도도 루루 조제 도르지 자 메예 카르테 요미 중 에마호 차통 조조 탐바이 공바 소스로 란종 홍 차통 역조 사변도 란주주의 이게서 녀모조보 란조네 차통 두당 에르미 졸레 메제 카도 두den샤라 홍 인초적이 사변도 란종 주의 이게서 유르조 똑바 란조네 인초 두당 에르미 졸레 자유 카도 두den 종 엄마조도 소리 헤로가 홍페 차통 침비 공바이 엄마니 마리니모 카도도 디유도로 제보지 메치 모나 예수 킬레 체조 니다 엘미도 인미 칠미도 과라 도르주르딜라 테소메 엄비다 저다 마하시리 헤로가 홍페 산제도 공바디 모티모카도도 디유도로 제보 메치 카트 땡도제 산제도 엘미도 니미도르도 테소메 엄베다 저다 마하시리 헤로가 홍페 도지사도 공부대 년모 세당 가도도 디연도로 제보 메지 팅나 설도 트랩 도지 차도 예미도 년가라 깨와 태섬이 엄마레나도다 시리마 하헤르가 홍베 렌진 차도 공부대 년모가 가도도 디연도로라 태섬이 메지 센나 서로 저 렌진 차도 예미도 소조 빨진 신도기 엄베마도다 마하시르 헤르가 홍베 배마차도 공부대 년모대 자가다도 뒤에 돌아라 제바고 메지 마르나 눕도 트립 눕도 초 배마차도 일미도 눕초 대진 신도께 엄카르마차도 마하실 헤로가 홍배 카르마차도 공부대 년모 차도 가다도 뒤에 돌아라 제바 메지 자나 정도 초 레기도 일미도 장초 내랍 신도께 마하토디 소리도 인조 용지 인조 공부대 최진 똑바로는 도와 이도 키르싱 돌 인조마다 엘메돌 엄비다 조디 소리 돔 산지 인조 공부대 송유를 똑바로는 도와 땡기 초소kel 산지 인조 엘메돌 엄바드라도 소리 돔 도지 인조 공부대 자유도 똑바로는 도와 설기 초소kel 도지 인조 엘메돌 엄마레 나토지 소리 돔 이ren진 인조 공부대 리리 도바란드네 도와 루이 초도케라 렌지 인주 엘메트 옴 페모토데 소리 톰 페마 인주 콤바데 루도바란드네 도와네 초도토 페마 인주 엘메트 옴 카마토데 소리 톰 레기 인주 콤바데 리리 도바란드네 도와장이 초도토 레기 인주 엘메 돌라토토 주니 기 콤바란즈 론드데 뉴모도도는데 퐁아 신감 나다 완주르제 하하하하하하하하하하 꼬리마제 사변도 란준지 얘기해서 토지 또바 란준 메타 예소 결심 초 엄배들 헤로가 엄배들 끼우리하 토모 कर्मी 공바데 뉴모 남도 좀바르지 엄배들 소리하 토모 설미 공바데 리조 네네 포로그라지 엄배들 토모하 토모 몸을 공바데 초와 미도 템버지 엄배들 베타리하 토모장의 공바데 진유주미 공바 절 엄배들 포카시하 토모 마트를 공부하되 니모니네 버르지 엄배들 깨마리하 토모 잠에 공부하되 코르비 니네 잼바라지 엄배들 산달리하 토모 서치 공부하되 니모 텐단 들어라지 엄배들 메사니하 토모 텐제 공부하되 니모 텐단 들어라지 게오마지기 공부인 코르비 니네 잼바라지 메타 kirsin 토와라지 헤헤헤헤헤헤헤헤 생각마지 답변도 란주주의 얘기해서라 유르지 똑바란도네 메탈로고 주도to 엄배다 생각모하예 생모 생동공 생동마이 공부할 코르비 인데 답버지 엄배다 자티모하이 따도마이 공부할 코르바신네 답버라지 엄배다 필라모카에 와도마이 공부할 뉴모 인데 답버라지 엄배다 산모카이 장도마이 공부할 코르바톤이 또버지 엄배다 뜻다모가에 자기도 메공바데 엄뚝성 생니 줘버지 엄배다 강가모가에 Durja domain gomba de forwarding the temperature on the Kakamoka, ye Jarun Becoma de Nimoro be son long do on the Holomoka, ye Wodoma Yacomade. Lodo Denda Delavara Jeta Magic Goma de Yorjeta Varanda, Dahon, Bamo, Gomaji, Ranju, ye Gazer Kewa, Namsi. Go Kenya, the Namji, Dogi, Ombedra, Ango, Shada, Tadokar Gomba, de Korwani, Temperature, Ombedra, Pasa, Home. 파동 설미 공부데 로버도 진행 말하지 엄배들 포자 범된도 말미 공부데 머리님 몬도 말하지 엄배들 겐데고 로드 잠면 공부데 동의 남도 좀 말하지 조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조조 Maracho, Om Mandarasati, Jo. Simbo Jome Gomba de Om Pasati, Jo, Daji, Chumbe Gomba Yin, Om Ruti Rema Tam Jo. Dodo Jumi Gomba de Gomba Om Ekaran, Om Eka Sarama Jo, Senje Temi Gomba Ye, Om Manu Rahan Jo, de Temi Gomba de Om Kiti Ma Jo, Norson. Temi Gomba de Om Baba Bejo, Om Laye, Temi Gomba Yin, Om Maharam, Om Mahamara Jo, Nidi Temi Gomba de Om Agna Mejo. Mele Temi Gomba de Om Bara Hi Jo Bagi Temi Gomba Ye, Om Masamenti Jo, Shinji Temi Gomba Ye, Om Buddha Ni Jo, Wandi Temi Gomba Ye. Om Bani Bendra Jo Chuli, Chumi Gomba Ye, Om Hakala Jo Kujo Nami Gomba Ye, Om Sakala Bendra Jo, Raujo. Arago, Matre Gombai, Ombedra, Sumkala Jo, Renjo, Rana Jo, Sindon Marbe, Denami Gombai, Ombedra, La Bo, Dara Najo, Dudon Jami, Gombai, Emaho, Dushi, Randu, Jumjibi, Chujinshi, Yanini, Kami, Singe, Randa, Ranjun Gomba, Didarajo, Ombedra, the Emma Kiri, Kari, Masta, Bali, Ada, Aka, Rasu, Bibuste, Enila, Nila, Kaya bana abi kenta kumbu de jom tenge ta sanje shino bumbi chi bumba yi kudang nimi timni ranjong lo longdo dolora jir om bandra troda maha troda om bandra troda maha mudra nyana adi so hong sapara na pe so wa nyemo de jom tenge ta pador hero kadani nimi timni sange joro dungi thala dolni dungi thala rando ne turba yangro to denje Om da trota amrita kyunda le hong tinda binda hana da pasa Om be laibi du jom senge da du se kilvi Kudani Nimiti Sangi Wangan Durutungi, Randulani, Chinle Chumi, Dubarajar, Ombadra, the Hayati, Sarwa, Tata, Kata, Maha, Pesa, Om Ayurinyana, Maha, Punaya, Tita, Om, Chita, Tijum, Thingeta, Chomdin, Tandrin Jelboy, seeing Nitro Tomni, so Chini, teaching, Nala, Marinum, Techini. Marini Masachene, Dunga Maba, Ransara Dolo, Korva, Tommy, Bakcha, Chap, Dishi, Jomni, Kushiri Dolo, Tondang, Jaye, Ranselichung, Emo, Jojo, Emo, Rijo, Londol, Jojo, Turku, Kami, Gombasra, Sha, Sa, Ma, Kega, maybe Gombadi. Jojo Ritu Loni Tolo Ranjong Tili Duko Rinti Tashing Meba Dan Jaye Nato Jumorja Emma Ho Tamba Riji Gomba Chok Sanga Yigi Tujabo Dorji Temba Gonglong the Dorji Timbi Tolo Ranjong Juyi Titrasa O Mendra Sato Samaya Manon Balaya Pendara Sato Teno Pa Tita Tito Meba Tuto Kaye Meba Suba Kaye Meba Anara Meba Sarva Titi Mabarayasa, Sarva Karma, Susa Mete, Shiriam Kuru Hong, Haha, Haha, Ho, Baga, Sarva Tataka, Benamesa, Benzibo, Masamaya Sato, Rija Tipi, Combati, Nyamcha, Mapang, Randu, Tondan, Jai, Zerisum, Jani, Tontum, Chapara, Ema, Kimi, Dolji, Yani, Jo, Ranjo, Yigi, Titarasa, Riri, Lili, Ang, Kimi, Yutu, Jutu, Tikpara Jaba, Dorji, Namba Dambo, John Waraja, Emma Ho, Dolun, Gami, Doji, Yani Jo, Ranjun, Digi, Titarasara, Kaka, Gahama, Tata, Dahana, Tata, Dahana, Tata, Dahana, Papa, Bahama, Yarasa, Tacha, Kami, Yutu, Toshi, La, Tikpara Jaba, Dorji, Temba Major, Combo, Chayering, John Warajur, Emma Ho, Neba, Judul, Yani Jo. Ranjung Yigi Titarasara, Yedaram, Tataka, Hayati, Evan Masterman, Sova, Judul Yitu, Togo, Tikpara Juni, Dorjeta, Peridon, Jayu, Topara, Tinde, Taja, Sambo, Ranjung Yigi Titarasara, Nedun, Jiji, Titikin, Ring on the Sidus, Sindam Korea, Sedan, Singham, Ribbing on the Gages, Putum Korea, Consul Sundam, Kotiki. Ripping on the one do you see, Pasam Kuru, Yeso, Jagi, Dunga, Tusumki, ripping on the Laparki, Maraya Peso, Temba, Kingi, Buchi, Ranjongomba, Ransara, to Semdin Dindu, Jungwa, Dingi, Nurbu, Rinchin, Cedric, Tamji Jong, Chima, Sanji, Nebrato. Dini Tinshin Zambo, La Legbam, Sorani, Shibi, Tembi, Kato, Sergit, Yigi, Buchi. 이게 우친 다고라자 고조 말로 다른 애들 담세 징게 내줄베 세계 제당 dom디소 람네제데 딱바라자 디니 기디 디니 기디 니카니 줄레데데 파르세 디게와 주세 셈진데 베바게 비 주버자 디과 신도 차양 데다르지베 게보라 데다라 삼빙 아제장 디제게도 동미세 최마제장 산자비 디지르다도 세자오세 다디코라 따르나 디동미도 말도 따르 되게디 소소이게디 세르기 랍디 세르기 이고지고세 따르 세르기 이고지네 되는 거라딜라 세 계당 세계 되는 세 종아라서 봐 좀비디소 되는 랍니 되제 소소이게 류라 된 따고래 좀 따나 되니 레 개와당 레 디과당 니까 가리 이나야 디 코라티 디기 마turwa 요 말에 동기도 상마디 다게레 디코 상마디 다게레 동기도.
So it says in the end of the doctoral, it says that in the best case it should be written with gold on paper and then folded like in 8 folds or 16 folds and then worn on the body, and then whether one is has positive karma or negative karma, all will be liberated by merely wearing it on the body.
개와도 셈제제 배바기면 도브라자 디과신도 타야담 데더제 개보라 데더 삼망아제자 디체 녀손도미 삼미방아 레제나야 디딱바이는 거는 탑방아제 나래 통이 말에 통이.
Even those of the 5 negative actions with immediate and negative rebirths then will be liberated.
최마제자 산제베 최마제네 통 따나 디게레 통이도. 디시 따로 세자고 콜로 통세 산제베 디시 통로 세자고 딜라리가 산제베 디제르도 세자고 로페 퇴세 산제베 디시 퇴로 세자고 올라레세 산제베 디시 토로 세자고 Ulale Sanjebi, another O Chemakala, the Dr. Lagwaina, the one of the Sotre, to me to
Kala. That is youngest one.
Ula. Ula left a Sanjebi, the one of the Chi U the non Yoruba, the O Chemakala, to take it down to the Yapo, Jenya, Tata, fix a Lagwaina, the Sotre, the Sotre, Sorwata meeting, Tolore.
So it says just as soon as the breath stops, just by wearing this mantra or this text or the tactile, then one will obtain Buddhahood awakening.
Di Matonvi, Sang Jeni, Chichang Jungwa, Ngachi Mede, Deshir, Tempe, Ningboyi, and Tribu Tonse, Sanjao, Deshirita, Changwaraja, Loxing, Sursini, Yilaja, the Lagore, Yang Yando, Temna Tenkore, Kindi. Rabto Kindi Choparaja, Kelden, Legend Matopa, Dini Sansing Bavaraja, the Maras Kelwata, Timbala Mato, the Mi Sentala, Kanjumanjala, or Sangogore, Bagore, Tena Masape, Dini Lola Visito.
So, except for those fortunate ones with appropriate past actions, this mantra circle and this tactile should be kept secret and concealed. Those who have not accumulated merit cannot comprehend its meaning.
Kurbatamna, Yalora Tosa, Dingi Mara Generate, Kurbatamna, Tosa, Yalola Toyama, the Shu Marathomito. Ida della Dartonda, Tisha, Sangi Menga, Galbaching, Tuyu, Dini Trepa, Shinto, Ditepani Shintoka, Tenela, Tupaka, Tisha, Didasu Trepa, Kawakela, Gibison, Sisi, Ludan, Delmeja, Dini Tonte, Tenri, Sitoram, Tubashi. I don't think it got in a Kawa, Kawakela, Tatu Telephone, Kawaki Gore, so Gibigi Tony, Totagore, there's also Sina, Ludan, Delmeja, the Dini Tonte, Tenri, Sitoram, Tubai. Dr. Pomaran, the Seja was also Samaya Jaja.
So it says, because if then these people of negative karma were to defame this mantra circle, they were to proceed to the hell realms. So also it says at the time of death, this mantra circle should not be removed from the body. And when cremation takes place, it should not be removed from the corpse. As a consequence, liberation may occur through seeing, hearing, or recollection or contact. So we should always wear this on our body, and then when we die or being cremated or buried, also we should leave it attached to the body. Dedication.
Looking back.
Oh. Now, Kongitsendi Mingi Theo von Dijk. Theo von Dijk. Van Dijk.
Ranchivi Digitiam Namiati, Roger Nam Chivi, Rang Chivi Digitiam Namiajate, Sangeta, Chancho Semba, Nam Rada. Jembani, Kincho Sumla, Yuso Jerwata, Yiki to be Choba, and Lacto, P. Tishimbo Tote, Dongi, Shuk, Tapi, Dikido.
So herein is contained an aspirational prayer calling to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for assistance. I bow down to the peaceful and restful conquerors. Each prayer should be recited at the time of one's own death or whenever appropriate. First, make offerings, both actual and visualized, to the three precious jewels. Then, while holding fragrant incense in one's hand, say the following words with fervent intensity.
Wangi ne dire je ngeto jerba da yiki turbe cheba si tuji chene ke namla kimbi yisi tebi tuji tim tebi tuji tebi tene chobi ne do tangi me chaba ngawa la be tuji chene ke namgi chege a
Theo van Dijk.
Tu ji je ke nam ge tele da ba te yo da je jawa de ne je de de ne paro do ne do je de de ne bo ke che mo de de do ne me do gen de che cham ne me ke ne me po ne ne me te de na wa ne do mo do shin do ne do min na to bo ro ne jo yang za chen bo ro ne long na je na je chen bo ro ne do le ge wang ne de ge ba chen bo ro ne dang do chen bo ne ke re le ki dong gi de 사서 미비 조서 네 도유로 뭐 쳔보로 네 조된 쳔베 네 된 신지 번자라 네 지신 자리기 디바나 디바 리기 디바나 야 디바라 네 조 아니메 지보로 조 메보로 조 베비 jel라 바나 투지첸 기놈기 텔렌데 바데 요다 자메 바데 라자데 제겐데 제 본연데 제 바데 디미나 쳔볼레 조세데 롱마라 쳔볼레 도지 신지지 다젠보레 조젠바데 탕리보 체레 도르제 뒤지진 개남기 개나무 도지 마종세 라다 되제냐 손도 마동시 닝게 담자 마이러버 뒤지 슈뉴도 총시 당게다 자주 템바남기 텔렌데바데 요다데라 도지 탑다니바 마종시 도지 총시 Dzogchen Ling
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas abiding in the 10 directions, refuge of living beings, imbued with compassion, imbued with knowledge, imbued with clear vision, and imbued with love, come to this place by the power of your compassion and accept these displayed and visualized offerings. O compassionate ones, as you are the fountain of all-knowing, pristine cognition, of loving compassion, of effective activity, and of a power to grant refuge beyond conception, come to this place. O compassionate ones, this human being, Theo van Dyke, is leaving this world and journeying to another shore. He is being cast off from this world and approaching the great transition of death. Suffering deeply, he is without a friend, without a refuge, without a protector, and without a companion. His perception of this life is fading away. He is moving on to another world, entering a dense darkness and falling into an unfathomable abyss. Entering the thick forest of doubt, he will be driven on by the potency of his past actions. He will be entering a great wilderness, borne away on a great ocean, and driven on by the vital winds of past actions. He will be moving in a direction where there is no firm ground, entering a great battlefield, being seized by great malevolent forces and becoming overwhelmed by fear and terror upon meeting the executors of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. In accord with his past actions, powerless to resist, he may even yet again be entering the realms of rebirth. The time has come when he has no choice but to move on, alone, leaving his dear friends behind. O compassionate ones, grant refuge to this person, Theo van Dyke now, who has no refuge. Protect him, be his companion, defend him from the great darkness of the intermediate state. Turn back the great hurricane for past actions. Protect him from the great fear and terror of the unfailing laws of cause and effect. Rescue him from the long and dangerous pathways of the intermediate state. O compassionate ones, be unsparing in your compassion. Grant assistance to him. Do not allow him to be expelled into the 3 kinds of inferior existence. Without wavering from your ancient vows, swiftly release the power of your compassion. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for the sake of Theo van Dyke, be unsparing in your compassion, skillful means and ability. Seize him with your compassion. Do not allow this sentient being to fall under the power of negative past actions. O 3 precious jewels, protect us from the sufferings of the intermediate state.
제 미기 잡히면 다시 다음 지기 레tum도 자오 되네 Bardo Thödol Bardo Thödol 마다 지점에 몰람 남 타버죠 단지다 자주 템바 남라 람다 람드라tin 비면람 코로 마던 게 버도 마도서 삼마야시 제 오징기 캠고 빼마 존이게 세데 소지르기 센들 딘리 투티니 미기 테르도베 Lara karma limpi kambo pelgi riwo netenrambo.
So this aspirational prayer calling to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas for assistance should be read aloud with intense devotion 3 times by oneself and by all other present. May its impact not cease until cyclic existence has been emptied. Samaya Gya Gya Gya, let good auspicious prevail. This was composed by the preceptor from Odhyana Pemakara. May this profound sacred teaching not be extinguished until all the worlds of cyclic existence have been emptied. This is a treasure text of Tulku Kamalingpa. Then the 6 root verses, or the root verses of the 6 intermediate states.
Bardo Thödol, Kema dala kinye bardo chade jere te la lo me le lo banje ne te da go do ma ye la lo jo na le la lo go do ngon do jeng jere cha me le le je to pe de jere ye ma lam lo de pe de mi kema dala me la bardo chade jere de mo Timo ro nye le ba la ba me ba je ne de ba ye me ne lo ngon lo jo me lo do je to lo jo lo ye de la ja de lo chen to ne ro ma ji chi ni dang ye tom de pe nyam le che.
Herein is contained the root verse of the 6 intermediate states. I bow down to the conquerors, the peaceful and wrathful deities. The root verses concerning the 6 intermediate states are as follows. Alas, now as the intermediate state of living arises before me, renouncing laziness, for which there is no time in this life, I must enter the undistracted paths of study, reflection and meditation. Taking perceptual experience and the nature of mind as the path, I must cultivate actualization of the 3 Buddha bodies. Now, having obtained the precious human body, this one time, I do not have the luxury of remaining on a distracted path. Alas, now as the intermediate state of dreams arises before me, renouncing the corpse-like insensitive sleep of delusion, I must enter free from distracting memories, the state of the abiding nature of reality, cultivating the experience of inner radiance through the recognition, emanation and transformation of dreams. I must not sleep like a beast, but cherish the experiential cultivation which mingles sleep with actual realization. Alas, now as the intermediate state of meditative concentration arises before me, renouncing the mass of distractions and confusions, I must undistractedly enter a state which is devoid of subjective apprehension and free from the 2 extremes, and attain stability in the stages of generation and perfection. At this moment, having renounced activity and having attained a singular concentration, I must not fall under the sway of bewildering mental afflictions. Alas, now as the intermediate state of the time of death arises before me, renouncing all attachment, yearning and subjective apprehension in every respect, I must undistractedly enter the path on which the oral teachings are clearly understood, and eject my own awareness into the uncreated expanse of space. Immediately upon separation from this compounded body of flesh and blood, I must know this body to be like a transient illusion. Alas, now as the intermediate state of reality arises before me, renouncing the merest sense of awe, terror or fear, I must recognize all that arises to be awareness manifesting naturally of itself. Knowing such sounds, lights and rays to be visionary phenomena of the intermediate state, at this moment, having reached this critical point, I must not fear the assembly of peaceful and wrathful deities which manifest naturally.
Peterpana Lama Yamge Jewa Onya, maybe Lore Boa de Mete, Java to Ne, de Dono, Nasin to the Guma Sepata, Pichitaji. Tata Nidala Jemije down to Jenda Mission de Keton, Lamitama, yet Langitam, La Femla Masana, Rangiran, Dora Mijuram, say so, Bardo Thödol Safiti. Korwa Matongi Bardama also.
Alas, now as the intermediate state of rebirth arises before me, I must with one pointed intention concentrate my mind and resolutely connect with the residual potential of my virtuous past actions. I must obstruct the womb entrance and call to mind the methods of reversal. This is the time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. I must give up all jealousy and meditate on my spiritual teacher in consort union. From the mouths of the accomplished masters have come these words: O you with your mind far away, thinking that death will not come, entranced by the pointless activities of this life. If you were to return empty-handed now, would not your life's purpose have been utterly confused? Recognize what it is that you truly need. It is a sacred teaching for liberation. So should you not practice this divine sacred teaching, beginning from this very moment? And it is also said, if I choose not to take the oral teachings of the spiritual master to heart, am I not the deceiver of myself? This completes the root verses of the 6 intermediate states. The next is the aspiration prayer, which rescues from the dangerous pathways of the intermediate state.
Melo ije dewe yana na zum ne dorje dembe lam na to himje tanje je be jamje jora porte je be tonde to la yanda to be tanje taro jo ngaje da be korro jambe de jamne je dewe yana na zum ne ri ji dunje lam na do yimje mama ki jamne jora porte je be tonde to yanda to be tanje taro jo.
I bow down to the spiritual masters, Yidams and Dakinis. May I be guided on the path to their great love. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated bewilderment, may the spiritual teachers, holders of the oral lineages, draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is undistracted study, reflection, and meditation. May the supreme consorts, the hosts of Dakinis, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated delusion, may the transcendent Lord Vairocana draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. May the supreme consort Datishwari support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by a deep-seated aversion, may the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the mirror-like pristine cognition. May the supreme consort Buddha Lochana support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the supreme consort Mamaki support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway in the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated attachment, May the transcendent Lord Amitabha draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of discernment. May the Supreme Consort Bandaravasini support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated envy, may the transcendent Lord Amoghasiddhi draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the pristine cognition of accomplishment. May the Supreme Consort Samayatara support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha.
Bardo Thödol
So this prayer, what we call the prayer which rescues from the dangerous pathways, the Bardo, is where we recognize the 5 poisons in the nature of the 5 primordial wisdoms and the 5 Buddha families.
Korora Champete, Yeshi, Natangi, Yeshi, Yellow La, Bori, the Nangi Jamni, Yumjagan, Sogi, Lam, Don, Bardo Jibit, and let it to the Yanda to be Tajetorojo. Nanda Korora Champete, Nanda Jina Pambi, Lam, Somdi, Togi, Jamni, Joro, Incho, Country Togi, Lam, Don, Bardo Jibit, and let it to Yanda to be Tajetorojo.
Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by the 5 virulent poisons, may the transcendent conquerors, the male Buddhas of the 5 enlightened families draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the 4 pristine cognitions combined. May the 5 supreme female Buddhas, the purity of the expanse, support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the light paths of the 6 impure classes of beings, and be escorted to the 5 utterly supreme and pure Buddha fields. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated habitual tendencies, may the assembly of spiritual heroes and awareness holders draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the co-emergent pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consorts, the hosts of Dakini, support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state, and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha.
Gema Namga Kam Namgi Kam Namdaro Midaje, Taji Tiki, Singam Tongrajo, Chu Kam Namdaro Midaje, Taji Karbi, Singam Tongrajo, Taye Kam Namdaro Midaje, Sanji Derbi Singam Tongrajo, Me Kam Namdaro Midaje, Taji Marbi Singam Tongrajo, Lungi Kam Namdaro Midaje, Taji Jambi Singam Tongrajo, Jate Kam Namdaro Midaje, Taji Nato Singam Tongrajo. Diet Dara Midaji, Jedoram Jingam Tongrajo, Tranam Tamje, Rangder Separacho, Yunam Tamje, Rangi Separacho. There no Tamje Randra Separacho, Bardo Rangi Separacho, Kotum Singam, Otum to Jongwara, Jurwara show.
So then this also the 5 elements purified into the 5 Buddha families and pure lands. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated bewildering perceptions, may the assembly of blood-drinking wrathful deities draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is free of fear and terrifying perceptions. May the assembly of the Grodishvari queens of the expanse support me from behind, and thus may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state, and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. May the elements of space not arise as a hostile force, may I see them as the field of the blue Buddha. May the elements of water not arise as a hostile force, may I see them as the field of the white Buddha. May the elements of earth not arise as a hostile force, may I see them as the field of the yellow Buddha. May the elements of fire not arise as a hostile force, may I see them as the field of the red Buddha. May the elements of wind not arise as a hostile force, may I see them as the field of the green Buddha. May the awesome sounds, lights and rays not arise as a hostile force, may I see them as the infinite fields of the peaceful and wrathful deities. May the rainbow-colored elements not arise up as a hostile force, may I see them as the fields of the manifold Buddhas. May I recognize all sounds as my own sounds, may I recognize all lights as my own lights, may I recognize all rays as my own rays. May I spontaneously recognize the characteristics of the intermediate states. May the fields of the 3 Buddha bodies be manifest.
Bardo Thödol Melam Zejo, Ujingi Kimbo Pemojo Nigi Teba Koro Matongi Bordo Mazo.
And this was the prayer, aspirational prayer, which rescues from the dangerous path of the intermediate states, which was composed by the preceptor from Odhyana Bhimakara, may this profound sacred teaching not be extinguished until all the worlds of cyclic existence have been emptied. Then next is the aspirational prayer, which protects from fear of the intermediate states.
Kema dani de pema de pede, jide jide mitonde rani jibur badru chanda na jalwa shide tuji chuchu ne mare mebe maram darvara cho kavye to tante ne jibur cham. Rano tomi do ne jade dire sanje namge toji chuchu ne manda barde jiba mi jonso, isi telwe yunga chara de dire miji mita rango separ cho. Siddhan Chobe Dong Kodo Chade Dere Meji Tento Paradoro Se Parajoro Lenge Wage Tungre Jotana Jawa Sipi Tung Tarvara So.
When my life's course is ended and I roam alone in the intermediate states, the loved ones of this world can no longer help me. So at this critical time, may the conquerors, the peaceful and wrathful deities, quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the deep darkness of my ignorance be dispelled. When I roam alone, separated from my loved ones, and myriad images of emptiness arise, naturally manifesting, may the Buddhas quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the fear of the awesome and terrifying intermediate states be annulled. When the 5 radiant lights of pristine cognition dawn, may I recognize them as my own nature, without awe and without terror, and as the manifold forms of the peaceful and wrathful deities arise, may I be fearlessly confident and recognize the characteristics of the intermediate states.
Gando Samawa Yelezana, Lengen Repeat, Damage, Chen, Trove, Market, Yiki to be Churro, so Kajar Nondami, but Yeshitivi. I mean, Dobrojo, Ridina, and Bardo, Nama Mitre, Meji, Tori, Garavara, so.
When I experience suffering as the result of negative past actions, may the great compassionate one dispel all such misery, and as the natural sound of reality reverberates like 1,000 peals of thunder, may all sounds be heard as the teachings of the greater vehicle. When I am driven on by past actions, unable to find a refuge, may the meditational deities dispel all such misery, and as I experience the suffering of habitual tendencies and past actions, may the meditative stabilities of inner radiance and bliss naturally arise. When I am miraculously born into the intermediate state of rebirth, may I not be beguiled by the perverse prophecies of Mara, and as I freely arrive at every place that I think of, may the bewildering fear and terror generated by my negative past actions not arise. When the roars of savage and wild beasts echo around me, may their cries be transformed into the sound of the sacred teaching, the 6 syllables, and as I am engulfed by snow, rain, wind and darkness, may I achieve the pure clairvoyance of radiant pristine cognition. May sentient beings in the intermediate state, similar in kind to myself, be born into the higher realms, free from rivalry.
Dani gibi dobjorone, tonde tamjinyor dororoso, lenge tamjinyor domyeta jeyete nangayi presenge jetazo, kanda kandu kyawade dandere teravitan hatan jeroraso.
And as severe dissonant mental states generate insatiable hunger and thirst, may the afflictions of hunger, thirst, heat and cold be annulled. When I see my future parents in union, may I perceive them as Mahakarunika and consort, and for the sake of others, being blessed with the power to choose a birthplace, may I achieve an exalted body adorned with the auspicious major and minor marks. Once I have achieved birth in a supreme human form, May I act so as to swiftly liberate all who see and hear me, and may I not be influenced by my negative past actions, but multiply and emulate my past merits. Wherever I may be born, in whatever land it may be, may I quickly encounter the meditational deity of my past lives. Knowing from immediately after birth how to speak and walk, may I remember my past lives and attain the power of non-forgetfulness. May I easily come to master by study and reflection the manifold stages of learning, small, intermediate, and great. May the country into which I am born be auspicious, and may all sentient beings be blessed with happiness. O peaceful and restful conquerors, may I and all others become entirely at one with you and come to resemble you in all your forms, your retinues, your lifespan, and your Buddha fields, and in every quality of your supreme auspicious marks. Through the compassion of Samandavata and the infinite peaceful and restful deities, by the power of the truth of pure reality, and by the blessings of the mantrins who practice one-pointedly, may every wish of this aspirational prayer be fulfilled. This prayer, entitled Aspirational Prayer, which protects from fear of the intermediate states, was composed by the preceptor from Uddiyana Brahmakara. May this profound sacred teaching not be extinguished until all the worlds of cyclic existence have been emptied. Samaya Gya Gya Gya. This is a treasure text of Tulku Kamaling. So then we finished. So there are still some parts left, but we won't have time now to read them all. Usually we don't get this opportunity, but when we have the opportunity to care for a deceased person, then we should also read this. Some of them are like confessions, some are like fulfillment prayers and so forth, which we have to, which is good to do for the sake of the deceased person, but we don't have enough time now to transmit them all. So, but the most important what we did was what the Bardo of reality, the Bardo of the restful deities, the Bardo of becoming or rebirth, and then the prayers, and also the doctoral liberation through wearing. So with this I gave you the most, all of the most important parts of the Bardo Thödol, and myself I received them also in 2 days, the Lung and teaching and commentary, so like this I also gave it to you in 2 days. Especially what is very good is that there is the English translation like that, so for those, of course, since you all know English well, then it's really very useful. In English, so for those of you who know the Dharma well already, when you study this text, then you will come even to understand more of it, and those who don't understand the Dharma yet so much, you will get more deeper understanding of the Dharma by reading it.
가르다 캐버려. 락 픽업도 야르마 피 체에 또에 요래 봐. 피 또에 디 삼모 녀르던다 디 고 카카고 게는 가라도. 디 캐라도. 디 딩가도 남바 이마이나 하고 게래 봐. 야르마 토에 또에 또에 봐. 하고 게래. 디 미나 파랑 미 신데게 로바이나 야르마로 예티 마라자리 야르자리티 냠도 튀드러나 데니 고다 트게 말해. 고다 마트 양 고뇽 게래. 고몽 게래.
The moderate and logi. So especially it's good to know what is to be read, like what is the introduction part, what is the instruction part. For us as Buddhists, we know this now, but for non-Buddhists, if they read, they don't know, and they might get confused by everything.
Tibetan Thödol Lama Tsewang di nyamnyam te ko gore. Nyamnyam ene yang te wa thamma muthi ne la sana den ti ko treke mar.
So we need to also have this experience of the Thödol. So if you would read it to somebody, we need to know what is to be read to the deceased person and what not, because if you read everything, then also the deceased person will not be able to recognize it.
Tiru ngara ni mini gina ya po to so de samma la tengi te kabo chung song se.
And for 2 days we all did really well here with this transmission, and so I'm really happy about it.
Ine gora de ta parto samma chasan to bre ba ta. Samma to bre.
So now you have received everything.
이마이나 가시기 타고는 고토 가시기 주모토 용이도가 대파라 디링다 가산데 야고 토판딩에 담아가 보죠.
So what I'm really happy is because some people they receive a little bit kind of the beginning but not the end, or the end but not the beginning, but you received everything of this what I transmitted, so that's why I'm happy.
되네. 지미랑로다 김세 얘네 거라 기성 pema soma da koran sogi teni ngaran di cheshi dilla teni riri teni le kamang poche teni ngaran diri yong rimbo shika shi teni ngaran diri yong teni kangi shepa te payara shi yaku chung song se da koran sogi dati che yala teni kato teni tongwala tuji che shugi yin.
So then I want to express my thanks to Jingmirang Chung, Gunse, Kitso, Bema Tsomo, for making possible for me to be here, to care for me in their homes, care for me to prepare everything, the teachings, so that I could come and give whatever I know in a good way. So therefore, thank you very much. And then also thank you to the translator. Most important is the translator. Because if I come and you're not there, then I wouldn't help much. And I could just say everything in Tibetan, but you guys wouldn't really understand what I'm saying, and we would get very confused. So thank you to everyone.
Okay, I have a few questions. I think in the West we cannot leave the corpse for so long, for so many days, to actually read the Bardo Thödol, the good parts to the corpse. So how do we do this best? Because sometimes it talks about this day, on this day, and this day, and then I'm thinking, well, in Holland I think it's already cremated and things like this. So how does it do
Takoradi ro yubi bardo la pareba ro yubi bardo den ko yaku den la ro me ro chila ten sarne me ta tanda ya ta la peja ya de be sarne te to se ro shakti ge sa yere ba dila la go
And is Rosha?
da ro shakti ge kambi chore ba o dila lo go ya koron para yore ba dila lo
the Rosha sa kamba de yang azu chigala jochoge maro kan de naugi manzogi kamba yo maro. The young Chetan Shungi Kamba.
Shungman, yeah.
Then Nalola Shama.
Nana Sagi Omare.
Nala Nauki Chagamani.
Oh, yeah. 나는 마찬가지 되기도 나는 마찬가지 나는 또 나는 제거에는 또 서로 빠르지 심부 빠지고 그래.
So as long as the body is there, you should read it next to the body, and then once the body is gone, either being burned or buried, then traditionally, because the traditions of corpses are kept at home in the Buddhist countries, so then you read it in the room where the body was kept, the corpse was kept, with a picture in front of a picture. If you don't, because nowadays very often the corpse is kept in like a government building, then facility, then whatever, not like official facility, then you cannot go there to read there, so then you do it at your home with a picture, in the presence of a picture.
And should read like continuously, like 24 hours a day, or?
Ane khandis logo re de ni should nimar re chutsen ni chu sabshi ta kar gyun ma cheba de logo re kan
logo re chuma che logo re nimar re la ta chutse re la chigi re ba nim ta ko logo ko mar nimar re la chutse re la chigi re ngara to ji tu yo re ba ngara to gi ta khala shego sogi khala gi tem chi yo re ba konda khala gi tem chi yo re ba o ji la logo re.
So it's not like you have to read 24 hours. You have to read every day, of course, but you can take special times, like 1 hour a day. For example, every time we have our times when we have breakfast, when we have dinner. At this time, when we can read them.
Ki la pe ka fe to na to gi ti par yu pa na par ge tun la ti chi mi chi par. Ten ti la chu chi kang. Ten ti la ma na to ka re na kala to to kang.
So we put the picture at that time, and in front of the picture we put a lamp, like a candle, and whatever food we have, we put in front as an offering, and then we read this.
And also in the text it says that we read this for which day we have to read what, but then it says, okay, if then this day you didn't receive liberation, then you go on to the next day, but we don't know if at least I don't know, because I don't have this pure view to know if the person actually reached liberation. So we just go on and.
하고 그 말했다. 하모고니 알아서게 샤고 십시고 받을 로고래. 랍디 거는 니사치 받으래. 되니 거는 랍디 십시고 받으래. 넘어서 니사치 받을 로는 지게.
So you don't know, it's true, and therefore we need to read in the best case the 49 days, and if not, we read until the 21st day at least. We read this, and then we need to make these good aspiration prayers.
Okay, then if person who died actually has no in his life had no connection with Buddhist teachings, and maybe even he had an aversion to Buddhist teachings, should we still read it to them?
안에 sendendi kana chigewa inara da namba yo mare da chijena namba ma gagenya dine yoro dine konsola di logorbe
다 namba magege sala lana yang te te kono te kakareba karere tena kono so ngamani debe kapson kono to ki ha고게 말해봐 하모는 양 회타 팽게래 이내 때 kono to 양 kono to kono to ngamani 나고실라 magege kono to ite 나로 때 라피 kono 하고 그래봐 나로는 파통이 말아 kono to 소리 송게래 나로서 다 kono 때라 제게도 같이 양 데셈 줄도 그래봐 양 같이 돌랑게래
So that's different, because of course those who don't know Buddhism before, you can read, of course, it will benefit for them, but then if it's people who really didn't like in their lifetimes Buddhism, then because they will know what we are doing, they will see us even though we cannot see them, and some, of course, it will change their mind even though you read it to them, and they will change their mind, but some might get angry, and then it will be actually harmful to them. So there is a danger also. There is a danger, and there's a possible danger, possible benefit.
So what do we do?
If you have clear voice, you will know.
Yes, okay. Maybe I should work on that city first then.
Because if he's not really happy with it, he will get angry. Because we cannot see them because they are formless, but they can see us and know everything what we're doing and thinking. But if it's just a person who is no Buddhist but has no like special devotion, but also no dislike to Buddhism, then it will be beneficial also for that person. So those who don't like Buddhism, it's probably not beneficial for them.
And compassion.
If a person like is more kind of like in equanimity or like sameness towards Buddhism, like has no special feeling, no aversion, no likings, then it will be beneficial.
Can you do compassion to a person?
To a person who doesn't like you.
Yeah.
You need to finish the question because otherwise I have to read your mind. The meeting so magagen yunara and I go to the zewa and ninja gomna the pengrives. Yeah, that's beneficial if you do meditate and love and compassion. Mainly this is the main point of all the practices to have love and compassion for beings. Also because if we need to read also based on love and compassion, because then when the person sees us and he will know, oh, he's doing this out of love and compassion, then his mind will change also. This is good, mainly whether the person was a Buddhist or not a Buddhist, whether liked or didn't like the Buddhism, most important is that whatever we do for them, we do out of love and loving kindness, compassion, because then the consciousness of the deceased person will know that, he will see that, and then he will feel, oh, this person, he or she is doing this for love and with love and compassion for me, and the mind will change then. So most important whether it's beneficial or not for the deceased person is depends on the one who is reading, on the motivation of the one who is reading the text. So if you read it out of good motivation, based on love and kindness, loving kindness and compassion, then it's almost impossible not to be beneficial.
Lots of person. You can read the text in English, that's okay?
Yeah, okay, yes.
It's better than Tibetan.
English language
Yeah, because then they will understand also you understand. If you're reading Tibetan, the deceased person will not understand it. But for the Buddhists, even though they might not understand Tibetan, but still because they have this familiarity and acquaintance with the teaching, then it will be beneficial still. Generally, for general people, then it's better to read it in their language, in English, in this case. Same, yeah. Kids on first.
Probably you already said, but at what moment you start reading it? Some people are already dying like for 10 days. Do you really start reading it the moment they die, or already when there are signs that someone is dying? In my job, sometimes people die for 10 days.
What do you mean for 10 days?
Like they stop eating, so you see already this person is going to die, and then they get, they are lying in bed and then they die really 10 days after.
kutsugures tip lagiro pena mo the nepatso da mingembatso ropachegro and it's also mo tongre a koda nima chu jela da tenen shi tsayos res so dine kutsugna long na kutsugre da shi tsane kutsugre
mara rabti khorante chiu machi nangwo machi be kapsulo gore ba rabti
best is to read it when the outer breathing stops. So for us, we only say the breathing stops because we don't know anything about the inner breath. So when the outer breath stopped and the inner breath is still going on, to start to read them.
이 치오 체 나오 마치를 kapsu 말아서 게 충분 제네 khora 남절라 고 상미 전 로거래 양게 첨부 제네 양디 khorante 디제 그래 봐
아니, 근데 차선 로그를 왜
모트
창마디 로그. 이네 베나 간세나 니마 레레 베나 샤 탐불라 샤 탐부기 모드 로그를 샤 니벨라 샤 니벨 야나 샤 탐불라 양 샤 탐부 니가 숨바시바 창말 로그를
디사 탐부 로고 말해 걔네를 봐 바로 저기 다 거라 마시와이나 치오체 나오 마치 kapsu이나 원이 말사 탐바 요래 봐 디버도 로거래 양실 로거래 양실 다 시사로와니 동데 걔네 사 탐부 말 고소 그래
So also when you read it, then you should not, you should read it like very close to the ear, when the outer breath has stopped, very close to the ear, not very loud also, like clearly pronounced, but not very loud, because otherwise it might also disturb the person's meditation. And then you read always the section which is corresponding to each of the days.
Okay, thank you.
I'm assuming that because in the Bardos the consciousness is a heightened state, so that they say in the Bardo you can understand other languages, or you can cognitively understand other things that you could not understand when you were alive. So I'm assuming that is the case, and if that is the case, if the person is a Christian or was a Christian practitioner, in the case of many of our parents, for example, they would still understand the altruistic truth in the reading of the text, because they have an altered consciousness in the Bardo state. Is that correct?
Kosena kanjena Bardogi namshe na the Chitangi namshe ya the shukcheya yoro niba manga nema makoya da the kogres and gevrik ya ramina koya din res segido dine ina na chigewa mima se yishurwa ine konso lona tekti lona konso da kanjena Chitangi karla bure Chitangi tempari ro dine yishu menaya tempara insa da konso di anko dine kogres ko motu kogres yishu inaya
이슈이냐 하나다 제다 지속그래 제다 지속그래 쟤는 또서 다 대신 집어다 세고 소소 있기는 삼바당보다 자주 생게 양바 인지 돈이 된 쟤나 지속그래 봐
So yeah, sure. Also, they probably can understand that. Also, like you said before, mainly it depends on the reader's motivation, good motivation, and motivation out of loving kindness and compassion. Then it will definitely be beneficial.
But will they do have a different state of cognitive awareness in the Bardo? They are able to understand things they couldn't understand in their lifetime?
Yes.
너무 채워 맞아 갑수다 가라서 다다 리포 고줄게 텔버도 게래 되게
It says that awareness is getting 9 times clearer and stronger in the times of the Bardo.
맞을래요 갑수 가라서 토미에다 가버더니 토미에
Now we're like always obstructed, yeah, so we cannot go anywhere. But when you're in the Bardo, you can like go anywhere. There's nothing that can stop you from going through it.
Simple question. About Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who has the double colors, as far as I understood.
Who have the what?
The double colors, white and black and yellow and whatever. But I understood that actually in Tibetan 2 colors means what we call one color, like red and white is pink, And red and yellow means orange. And what is then black and white? Is that gray?
Was it saying something of black and white here?
Yeah.
Dat is zo ziet, minder zeggen du, kator, hai kator, hai kator, de kaje da garser da marser, de marser de sena de orange rive, ane de marcel sena de garmar sena de pink tower rive.
Karmarfen området.
ane garnak hina kanji du.
Karnagina, karboda napor.
Grey trousers. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I have something, I don't know, well, I'm almost sure it's almost not relevant, but
Okay, kids on the It's not relevant. Kids on
no, we read it for 49 days. And so in the Bardo they experience the same time, the same kind of days. Or how is this?
나도 샤크십주 쉐고 로그로와
그래.
아니 샤크십주 쉐고 된 고기를 했어요. 바로 그 남셰랑라 양된데 샤다 투츠다 된데 집버를 난조나신다 나와 집버를
집바 말해.
It's not saying
지금 너 집바 말해. 거래를 또 코로나 발도를 레베가 코로나 나와 가하래거든.
because as soon as they arrive in the Bardo
다워 잡고 동반 니빠 tumba 발도 팀하나 집바 지성 되게. 뭐시고 나와 되게. 뭐시고 나와 되게.
like the first, second and third day they have the same perception as us because it seems to them they're not dead yet.
마시 나와 되라 코로 되게. 되는 디기 때 잡고가 시젤라 돼 코라디 코라기 돼. 팀하나 팀바기 돼 코라디 용결해 봐.
Then after that, like 3-4 days or 5 days, then come these perceptions or appearances of the deities and so forth.
이년 코로라 참기 말해. 된자는 참 되게. 참 탐들 또 뒤에 가라서 있다. 가라서 겨우에서 두고 뒤에 봐다. 람통 코로디 말을 야벌을 두게 말해. 참 되게. 참백값은 알아서 되는 퇴주로 되는 기억다가 강한 두 제바디 참 디백값을 줘야 돼. 대탈이야 돼. 되는 알아서 이 강식이 거는 닉고 숙취보 즉 미식 강 닉고랑 추야 맞아 가임 닉고처 상체 제반 코로나 코 닉고 타타요므로 람통 코로나 우체마토도 코로나 람통 줘야 돼. 되는 코로나 겨우 또 첨부 지 죽겠지나 또 코로나 디 코로나 요말 타요말 람통 코로나 줘야 돼. 케버 된다. 이 많이 봤는데 코로나 참 되게.
이내 건조다 테링다 니마 탐보레 단다 니마 숨버레 단 테링 니마 시버레 딘데
그래서 요말.
요말. So they don't have this perception of time like we have it, but they're wandering around and the general beings, then they're wandering during this time, and that's why we can read every day and they have these perceptions, and then we can help them to liberate. For those who have only done negative karma and very strong negative karmas in their lifetimes, then there will be no Bardo. There will, as soon as the breath stops, will be reborn in the lower realms, in the hell realm. Likewise, those who have done very strong positive karma, also there will be no Bardo. There will immediately, as the breath stops, will be born in the pure land.
So just continuing on this. So they wander around. So they are in their mental bodies in the same space, but they experience different time. So the way how they perceive time or the experience of time is created by perceptions, by the mind. But
Yeah, like yours also, no?
So
Yours also created by mind and perception. Because they can solve it.
뒤스고
투지고 내내 건조기 투색이 난당 세 건조기 라그 샘기 속으로 그러면 그 단다계란기 투색이 나와야 양계란 샘 속으로
코로나 시선 뒤스 요말해. 코로나 시에 요말해.
Them they don't have time or like perception of time like we have it because there is no death for them. They do not die. It's a mental body.
exactly. So they are in the same space, but we cannot see them, so they are like somehow invisible to us. But so we communicate if they are gone. They don't have body. We communicate through telepathy, or how is this?
전에 나도 통도 교 말어. 전에 이내 건조 나도 냠도 유나양 나도 통도 말네. 나도 건조 베나 직라나 다 칸디슬랍 그리다 telepathy 로 the same partner 바로 라틴 게체 쉐그를 게체 쉐그를
가르르서는 가르서 콩토토게 말 가르르서 가르서기 미티 세도 그래봐 이는 바 통토게 말 그런서기 미티 세도 말해봐다 그런서 사이 유래봐 유기라시래봐 이 통토게 말한서
나도 가릴 남나 건조
고게래 가만 고게래
for us we cannot see them because our eyes and our senses are made like of matter, but their senses are not made of matter, so they can see us, they can hear us, so for them there is no need to telepathy. They can hear us, everything, whatever we say, whatever we feel, even they can know that.
다다 말한서는 사기도 요래봐 사기도 와다 당가는 류방의 말을 교회 가서 얘기를랑이래 찍고 찍장래 류 찍고 찍장래 이냥 걸어서 사기요 말해봐 통해
So like now you have this physical body, you know, so if somebody pinches you or burns you, you feel pain. So when you leave this body, then you have this mental body, you have exactly the same sensation. Even so, it is not a physical body and it cannot be harmed, you still have the same perception of it. It's not at all different for you.
이나야 또 걸어도 얘기를 이나야 뒤고 사야요래 또 레기왕이지 사야요래 다 딜랑 알아서 딜라 다등 알아 딜라 있나 또구나 디 똑사는 디 사기 말해봐 디 디야 사기래봐다 또 말을 잡지가 디 또는 디 dum부디야 사기 디야 사기 니가 사기
But for example they have also pain, yeah, like for example if I now cut my finger while I'm having this body of flesh and bones, then the part that is cut off will not be painful, but the part that is on me, it will be painful on the rest of the body. When you're in the bardo, if they cut their finger, then both parts will be painful, the cut off and the one that is from
Now you're more confused.
That's impossible.
Yes, I wanted to ask for animals like cats. We heard about how cats have bad actions. So actually, you already answered that they don't go through the bardo. So I wanted to ask, what about animals? Can we read the book for them?
Bena 당내만 나온 거 혹시 송송 심리대 배 딕션기 샘션을 건서 샘을 뭐 세기로 근데 건소다 바로 매바 남산 니와라 조그르베 아니 샘전 춘주 샘바 졸라 시나 먼저 바로 조절 로나 건소라 팽기르베 건소 양긴데 나신 시루사시 시주 쉐구 바로라 조그르베 건소라 바로 로나 팽기르베
또 그런 펜트 팽기래 가르르 다 걸어서 당하러 샘 찍거려봐 남시 찍거려봐 팽기래
It is beneficial for them, for animals, because they have the same mind.
찍거려
Also, when they have such strong negative karma that they just... Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, I don't. Nobody said that cats are going directly to the hell realm. So this is your interpretation. Shimi is a bit duchare. So lamsan never drug it away.
No, it's not like that. 심을 걸어서 때가 지티 먹고 다기죠. 또 레기왕이 되고 또 칸이지도 또 레기왕.
So of course cats they like to kill, yeah, because it's due to the power of their past karmic actions of familiarizing themselves with killing. Yeah, first, what's your name?
Julia.
Julia. Like rain in Spain. Julia.
It's like Julia, but
Julia. Okay, Julia.
My question is it possible for a practitioner or a master to experience states similar to Bardo of dying through meditation or like for practice while still alive? And what does it mean? Does it mean realization?
Mosena the Lama, the gelişenetsu mitse dila I parduki pardu ramina chiga pardu da juni pardu the nyang tukirves. What does it mean? What?
Yeah, if that happens, this experiences, what does it mean? Is it like
Dinde yona karet
Kare.
mosena ben lama tsewang gong gyame tatana mashi kongla ro gong gyame dinde pardu tong tukirves pardu ben chiga pardu ki rimba da durin da chiga pardu ki ösel da juni ki pardu ki la shaya dinde tong tanda tong tukirves
Tanta tontu kare.
tuken yörves
Tontu kare da kaçlar kola ma rab drink yer. Lama wangpa rab tisu chichela kola de tongre ba.
Dene dine ona dene karesegre de topa tobo res.
Topo tembore ba. Topo tembore ba te. Tawa tembore.
I mean, also amongst lamas you have like highest and medium and lowest lamas, and those of highest capacity or realization, they can experience the Bardos also in this life, and of course it shows that they have very high realization.
Di mai ba lama kaçe kola tu te Bardo Thödol la ko pesa la tu bache komala tu chap chap. Bardo le ka tu ti kola tu te jela ngana tu ki chedo yene ra lama yene chiga la pe ka tu samsam hago gare ba. Moshi gare kini tultu gare.
Some lamas, because they familiarize themselves like a lot with the Bardo Thödol during their lifetime, and then when they die and Dharma friends, other lamas read to them the Bardo Thödol, and immediately they recognize and immediately get liberated.
ngana tu ki Bardo ka tu te shitu la tu tongi to yongi to ngana tu. Ti sam la tu je moshi gare ba. Moshi ne te chita ke mare ba. To te ki ichi ke gare ba. Kini ko lam tam tultu.
Like when all the peaceful and restful deities arise, you will recognize them, you will know them, like just like an old friend coming to see you, and therefore there will be no fear, there will be no awe, there will be no terror, and therefore immediately you will be liberated.
Last question. The teachings tell us that it's very difficult to acquire a human rebirth. But equally I have heard
Precious human rebirth.
a precious human
It's
rebirth.
different, yeah.
But equally I have heard, could be wrong, that humans tend to be reborn as humans, that it's actually quite difficult to go down, so that humans tend to be reborn as humans and in a lesser form or a better form. Is that true, or is that just rubbish?
Tanda tenjo niegawa segro milurin senti niegar gawa segro ne ko dende tawo kosons mi ina tene yange mi ki keva le halam dende lengi res titandi ma doete kale kapo res ti ko kosons dende re
Tadi mi ke le me to fe la ko rama re ba. Tata de le ka le mate de che ya ko.
I mean, the thing when you are a human, it's now in your hands what you will be in your next life. So if you use well this opportunity, then yes, you will have possibility to be born again as human.
Kene Bardo ka re ba. Ta se tu mi to ka fa tu mi to pe kene Bardo ka ke che shura ya to ma to. Kene Bardo ka re.
As I said yesterday, no, the most important is the part of this life because it's now the border between where we decide whether we go up or down.
Tingana fe ke wa lembe ka tu ti thangul juye yore ba. Ju nor to no khara de khara wala ki to wa. Ya ko den de sindra ki to wa nor to.
But then when we take a rebirth, then we will see the different wombs or different doors for rebirth. And if we make a mistake, then we will definitely go down or in other realms.
다때 가라 투이 포모니까 3주 집에 가서 용기도 같아. 디디도 죽나 마 죽나 요래 봐 되기도. 디디나서라고 다때 가라 배치 약부 됐다고 그래. 또서 롤러 사고 기도 같아. 약부.
컨트롤 that's 간제다 밀루 갈레 카고레스 밀루 갈레 카고 지다 밀루 갈레 카고 유사마로 밀루 린천이 갈레 카고 진라고서.
밀루 데킨다 페마 타마 밀루래 봐다. 밀루래. 밀리 탐색이 나이 밀리 림보체 맹딱 용거래 봐. 어디 가고 그래 봐.
So there's it's really difference also when you speak about the human life, you know, like because all humans of course are humans, but amongst them is what we call the precious human life, yeah, which is the one with freedoms and special opportunities to practice the Dharma. Is different also. So when we say it's difficult to obtain, we talk specifically about the precious human life.
Chiti Dhammilingi nana mi kasayore, di sam miru re bata, miru. Digi nani chue jihen, yangdakwa jihen, miru rinpa che, sugi toga. Di re re yong mi dota.
So if you look how many humans are there now in the world, and of course all of them have a human body, have a human life, but amongst them, those who practice the Dharma like truly and authentically is very few, and this is what we call the precious human life, which is rare. Yeah, sure.
So it talks about liberation, you know, that people get liberated. But then, if people get liberated, then what?
Party.
Party time.
Dat is de drulvakor, drulvakor, drulvatop gres, säger de. Drulvatop sanne den är kanske. Drulvatop, drulvarva. Sanne kommer top sanne den är kanske.
tok 살아버려. 대니 거 일단 요요 말해 봐. 상제 살.
Then you're Buddha.
직접 요 말해 봐.
Then there's no fear, there's nothing to worry.
직접 요 말. 대 가야 제고 요 말해. 살래.
다 고생을 되니 가르치 얘기를 아주 상계 돈나데 가르치 건도 되면 되는데 툭줄 당초기로.
아니 tok 살래 상제기 양줄. 그다 줄버 제거래 봐. 막 텐데 조도 제거래 봐.
Once you attain the state of Buddhahood, then you will manifest endlessly to benefit all sentient beings.
In this camp or?
Everywhere. Kasakala.
But you experience in that case still the whole cyclus of 49 days?
When, what? In which case?
When you are Buddha, immediately?
Immediately, Buddha. Like you mean like at the moment of dying, yeah. In the first part of like. The chiga part of Sangi Koban Tobratani, the Sutra Shegula, Dova, Palula, Yamaro. No, there's no pardo. That's what they say. Is to attain liberation without the pardo. You know? If you attain the liberation the first day, there's no second day. If you don't obtain it on the first day, then you need to go through the second day's process. If you don't obtain liberation on the second day, then you need to go through the third day and so forth.
But just then in theory, you could become a Buddha, hypothetically, on the 49th day. Not me, personally. A Buddha.
Not on the 49th day, because then you will have to be reborn. That's the last day.
Okay. 27th. I mean,
yes, possible.
You have 48 opportunities.
in our time, but
it's like the text say, every day gets more and more difficult.
또 알아두기다. 쉽지 쉬고 되지. 또 알아두기. 네. 수마드 행위 밑에 속에다 파에네다 보이네다 분저이다 가래네 세킹이 시킨데라 미들라키 쉽시고 여부 개월 계속 투투바나 쉽시기 벌라 거기 깨워지 된 거래 되기도 같아. 토리 손을 깨고 그래서 용된 거래 숨기도. 토리 손을 깨나 된 거래 등에 뒤워래 봐. 등에 뒤워래 봐.
So main important thing is here that when somebody dies, whether they are our children, our partners, our parents, our relatives, well, we need to do this practice for 49 days, if possible, in the best case, because then after 49 days, for sure, this person will have taken a rebirth in the higher realms. Can be through this, the person can take a rebirth in the higher realms, and if it's in the higher realms, it will have less suffering.
in you every sentient being till everybody's enlightened. You do that from the pure land, or you do that, or you go into rebirth in a precious human body.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Then that correlable technique number in that cheesy correlable cheesy number negi bars and just negi bar to yandu yongi in and something tung and members shows in the house some shival hag then kanes checker the takshin yongre yandu tencho ki milu rinchen di lenne di konsola semjen turn checker ve kanes checker
상계대 자주 터마이나 양리양도 걸 줄밖에 위도 줄밖에 템템 조된 되고 그래 봐. 이 양리양도 되게
Kala Kandul said.
알아 간도
So if when you talk about the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then they of course continuously they emanate in whichever way is suitable to benefit sentient beings.
이제 당하라 되게 되는 거를 리버지 같이 더 양태 폐기도 같아.
Some amongst them, or these emanations to benefit sentient beings, are like the tulkus, like some lamas, rinpoches, that again come as reincarnations, and they come as humans again. So they come for the welfare of sentient beings.
rinpoche 가실라 그런데 백현 요 말이야. 가실라고 지금 한번 죽힌 거래. 가실라.
Other lamas, they don't reincarnate as their successive reincarnation. They stay in the Pure Land. It depends on the intention of the lama. Okay, now maybe the last question.
Okay, sorry, pardon. When somebody in the Hiksan community, the Sangha, dies, and Nam Rinpoche has asked us for 49 days to practice the Nara Kongshak and the prayer to be reborn in Sukhavati. And now is it good to add this to that, so that we also read the Bardo Thödol?
Kenzo, kan na rinzing dunde na la shina tene namgram zena nara kongsha nima shashi chushi gorina nima tangwa nara kongsha da dewa chingi menlam gieba da yang sando bari menlam te dungure es andi nyamdu Bardo Thödol dona yabo tu es. Of course, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Yakuma te kabat.
This is why shouldn't it be not good?
Best now thing to what best now thing to what that I best to sure what 가르친 게 다 하고 그래 봤다. 발트 dengo기 to gain dengo기 미게 다 뭐 땡기도 왔다.
It shows clearly that you should recite it and say that it's not good to recite.
이게 나라 요래. 나 니리 니만이 살이 봤다. 이게 나라 가르쳐 줘. How you
see it and what every day what you need to recite it.
We can keep the corpse here.
Okay, let's stop questions getting more and more. Start thinking for yourself, please. Sunambi tamje sipani tomne nebe pranam tamje kika nachi panon tropa sipe sole drova sho Sanjo rinpoche make pana gyegyo shi keba nyamba mepa yang kone kono mewa sho Toni tawa rinpoche make pana gyegyo shi keba nyamba mepa yang kone kono mewa sho Kunzando je jangche meche ne jeje sawe lama yeche ge jowe tendo menlang kanda ba tera tamche tashi chupa sho Kari rawe kore shinkanto pena dewa male juwe ne jere tewa tenzen gyaso ishape chete pardo zengyo shi Ringen 也学这个给啥啦，在推着头发全部了，马别人都给跟随了，祖父母也变接受那着头，人生全部上岸领把一，这个跟我能个给错了，说话的错过这个个说，这着口味那那真怕，不许这都这话的心给我。Kam sama sawade, chodo kose rima sawade, chinde tashin ye pa sawade, nama dandarwa me pa jingira uso. Mandrali sun hanga chukuna, buddha ye shiro pa jameka, sazane jo shembo nyamnena, ye me duki dile rochi so, yewa kundu yanga lama dandre me chuki pela lushene, swatanam ki yonde rasho, doji shangi kopa nudo. Sato samaya manopalaya, ganga sato denopa, tisare me baba, sudokaya me baba, supokaya me baba, anorato me baba, savashidya me prayasa, savakarma sutsame, stitam shriyam guru, ha ha ha, ho bhagavan, savatata gata prasavane, nasagase kavama, samaya sato ha, tuzum sangye guru.
de Gewadi Yododa Ogin Lama Tsewang Tsewang Dala Gevarasho. Thank you. Photo?
Photo? Yes, photo. We need to make
First,
photo.
Sigmar wants to say
Yes.
I want to say something very shortly. I will always quite short, I hope. Anyway. So, of course, I think I speak for everybody that I really would like to thank Lama for again coming to our center and giving us this very precious, complete transmission of the Bardo Thödol. So thank you very much to you. Very much. So, of course, I think I also speak on behalf of everyone that we really pray that all your visions for the stupa will be accomplished according to all your wishes in the biggest form possible. And for that end, I really hope that you will come back again and again and again, so we can make more and more sponsor and help you in building the stupa. Especially also because I think that in these turbulent times, these degenerate times, that we really need the peace, not only on the external level, but also especially also on the secret level, on the inner level, because there's so much disturbance in the mind of everybody, all sentient beings. So I think this is really good that the stupa can be built as soon as possible according to whatever way you want it in the biggest station possible.
So if you help as quick as possible, I can build as quick as possible.
Okay, then as quick as possible, put this in. The quick as possible, give this envelope to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would add one thing that Lama Tsewang said would be very good if people visit him and the stupa next January or February in a group, and that could we try to raise 15 people, friends and family, to get together to go to Bhutan to actually be there for the first stage of completion of the stupa.
I was telling him yesterday evening. Organize a group in Holland here, for 10-15 people, and then you can come together.
Would be great.
Well, we now all have a reason and an invitation to go to Bhutan, and he said we need to all save our money, and for sure we can make it.
Okay. Well, then finally I would really like to thank our esteemed translator, like always. Anyway, without you, as Lama already explained, we would not receive even one fraction of it. Okay? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Happy always. Okay. So if people want to offer katak, and maybe after the katak we make the photo.
Yeah.
So yeah, now is a good time to offer one katak. The kataks are behind Kunsel. Here's the box. If you also want to offer an extra donation, there are some envelopes there, so you can offer it to me.
Yeah. For you, Thank you very much. Happy.